All right, we're back. Our image is a great one. It's just as our background, it's busy, but as like on the YouTube, it looked really good. We got a couple of coaching legends that we'll have on today. We've had both these guys on before separately. We're gonna bring them on together, have a little panel going, talking some football. I mean, there's so much to talk in football. It's like wild. So instead of me and Coach D talking to nobody on our own on the phones, we're going to get to talking with two of the greats of football, Coach Tony Demeo and Coach DJ Nimphius. So without further ado, let's bring both these gentlemen on here. Coaches, how's everything going today?
It's good morning.
It's going good. I have a thing in the middle of the screen that says
you just got to hit you got it.
Tony, did we already lose you already? I mean, that's what happens when you have the heavenly background, I guess. Tony, I don't know if you're there. You might have to like come back on here. I'll bring Tony back off and let him come back on as soon as he gets all fixed there. But Coach, first of all, it's great to have you back on. What are you doing with your illustrious spring right now? You coaching at all? Or?
No, I'm not. You know, it's just off season stuff for football.
Nice, a little time off.
I guess. I mean, I get bored real quickly, you know.
Yep.
But I knew what I didn't want to do in the spring. I think it's when as you go on, you know what you don't want to do more than you do what you do want to do. So that's really how the spring's been going. And you know, we're down to under 9 weeks until we can get on the field with the kids. And I know people think that's overkill, but I look forward to it. And I think we do it the right way. And it can get out of control, but we get an opportunity to be on the field June 10th. But so does every other sport. So we have to be careful how much we're tugging the kids. You know, I think that's a big point. And it gets on you really fast, you know, really quickly. So yeah.
I'm going to bring my son up to see you.
Oh, are you?
Yes, because I'm got to figure out. So I'll wait till the summer when you know you're kind of you know. But he so we do. I don't know if I told you this, but we have we have that 7-on-7 club, the Beast, but we have it all the way down to 8U, and they've been playing, and so we run. You'll laugh, but they run it. We run a lot of the mesh concepts, and we run. I mean, a lot of like Mike Leach kind of type stuff, you know, in 7-on-7, you know, the vertical concepts, comebacks, mesh concepts. And he plays mostly Q, although he's a heck of a receiver. So I don't know if like, cause we let him play a little bit, we use 2 QBs. So he's the one guy and there's another guy that plays QB too. And he'll go and line up at receiver. So he's got pretty darn good hands. So I don't know, like, he's our quarterback for our youth team, but I have to let him get out there and go play some wide receiver because he's like, hey, can I go run some routes? So I'm like, hey, you know, because Derek knows, as you know, obviously seen him over the years. He's long. He's long, complete opposite. Well, I would say opposite build of me, but like I'm more like, you know, stockier built guy, exploding guy, and he's like a long, rangy person, right? You know. So I want to bring him up with you because he thinks he's Patrick Mahomes. So yes, so he likes to he wants to, you know, he throws and listen to me, but he's like, why can't I throw from this arm angle and this arm angle? He's like, why can't I throw the bubble like this? You know, because you see Patrick go from the side. I said you can. I said, but I don't think you have a guy rushing up the field that fast. They have to get it around them. So.
Yeah, you know, I see that with the kids, and you know, I don't know. Years ago, I kind of came to the conclusion that you want the kid to be fundamentally sound within their own anatomy, and it's not exactly what you may like, but does, you know, if you're looking at the things, does the ball get out and is the ball accurate? And Bill Walsh used to say that you can't teach accuracy. So when a kid's accurate, I think I don't know if I totally agree with that, but I think if a kid's accurate, you're careful of it. But what they see on TV now is
exactly. It's all what they see on Sunday. It's brutal.
Yeah, it was what but at the same time, we have to advance ourselves. I think Coach will
absolutely
do that. That's all. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and he's very accurate. He's got a very good and he like listens well. So like yesterday, one of the guys who helps me out, who's an assistant, he played pro baseball. He was a pitcher.
okay.
Played. I think he was up to triple. I don't think he ever quite maybe went. He was in a Cardinals organization for a long time. But I said, hey, listen, my son pitches. And he gave me the greatest tip, like, because I can't get him to, because he throws the baseball pitching like he's throwing a football, the same style. But obviously, when you pitch, you've got to come through more, right? You really got to come all the way through. So he told him, he said, tell him it's like taking money off the ground. So I never even it's amazing when you talk to somebody that has an expertise in something. And he was a pitcher, obviously at the pro level, pitched at the pro level, and I went out with him and I said, listen, coach gave me a tip. I said, you want to try it? He said, yeah. He starts doing it, the taking money off the ground thing. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how one tip that a kid can relate to can make all the difference. So he went just in one little session when we were throwing with each other. He went from being an accurate pitcher, but he was throwing it like he was throwing a football. He wasn't getting everything into it. All of a sudden, he's throwing gas, and he's like, "Oh my God!" I said, that's why you want to talk to people who know what they're talking about. Right. Because
then why do you want them to come see me?
Well, I want them to come see you because you're
All right, whatever this guy tells you, don't do it. All right. My life is a bad example.
Tony, coach is welcome. Welcome back. I guess less illumination was better.
No, what happened was a thing came on that said I had to get the StreamYard app.
Oh.
And that's what I did. Otherwise, I couldn't get on anymore. I went
really?
off.
All right. Well, we worked it out. Now you're good to go. You still look great.
Yeah, I'm still illuminated.
You're still somewhat illuminated. We don't have to. Yeah, we don't have to put the the angel crown on you yet. But well, for the guests, just to give quick background, if they didn't watch all the two podcasts, these were two of the most exciting podcasters we had on, where both me and Coach D obviously learned a ton, but probably were in tears laughing as much as we were learning, which we find great. Not every other football guy in the world finds it great, but we find it great because you got to have some enjoyment in this sport as so much there is, and there's so many things going on in football. But a little quick background. I'll start with Coach Nimphius. 9 state championships, because I originally had 8 and I was incorrect on that. It was not 9 state championships that he's won as a high school coach. Riverdale High School is where he's at now. He's won a bunch there. Was at Glen Rock High School as a legendary offensive coordinator. That's where I got to know him. I got to know him from track and DJ, long before he was at Glen Rock. I used to see him when I was in high school. I said, who's that crazy guy running back and forth? This is when you had Paul Fox and he was running those 800. I hear you yelling the splits. And DJ was a young guy back then, although still in the same exact physical condition. You know what I mean?
I got a few more pounds now, but that's okay.
A few, meaning maybe 10. You didn't add 50 like I did. So you're
75.
Pretty good shape. But at Glen Rock, they, as an offensive coordinator, really took off. And he, as amazing as he is as a football coach, I say this all the time, and I don't think too many people would argue with me. He was in maybe even better track coach. So he's won 9 state championships as a football coach. Track, I don't even know if I could count his state championships. It's definitely above 10. And he was Glen Rock's girls track coach for a long time, and had numerous college scholarship athletes there. So one of the things I always liked about DJ as a coach, and I coached for DJ. I was an assistant with him, and was his ability to not just teach the game, but also teach the coaches. And I learned more from him, and he would throw you in the fire. We talked about it last time, but there was nobody better. Like I was coaching. I came in coaching with him. I think I started with as an assistant. I was a special teams guy, but I was doing like maybe running backs and I can't remember the other position, maybe linebackers. The next time I came around with him, he threw me right into the offensive line, defensive line. I never coached it before, but he had no mercy on me. When the next period was being blown and I was on the far end with the offensive lineman, I had to sprint my big ass all the way up and get there as he'd be yelling at me, "Why are you late? That's 30 seconds into the drill already." So I'd be sprinting up there with my linemen, by the way, which were in great shape, those guys. They were all like basketball players. So they were running faster than I was. So that's a little bit about Coach. Coach is a fantastic head football coach, but positionally, like I've seen him coach QBs, receivers, DBs. I've learned so much from him, from that standpoint. And schematically, there's in my opinion, in high school, there is nobody better than Coach Nimphius. So
you're talking about me?
Yeah, I was talking about you. Yeah,
about Tony. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Now you know.
Yes, now you know. So now you know.
You know we were 3-8 last year, right?
Well,
yeah, first time in how long?
A long time.
Yeah,
there you go.
Even great chefs break an egg every once in a while.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Coach Demeo. So Coach Demeo, and I'll let Coach Depascale chime in a little bit after too. But Coach Demeo obviously was a football coach at the college level for many, many years. I won't say the years, but one of the things I really know him really well for is the spread triple option, really the gun triple option. And I read his book many years ago. He has a new book out, which I'll definitely let him talk about. I think Coach Depascale went and got that book. But as far as the option, the expansion of the option, the ability to put points on the board, I can't remember who we had on Coach Depascale, but they were talking about when they played against him. Was it Matt Matsakis?
Yeah, I think it was Jimmy.
So how
when he was on staff with his brother.
Yep. It was a lot of points on the board. Not a lot of defense that was played, but there's 40, 50 points on the board, and between the triple option versus the run and shoot. So, but Coach is a phenomenal teacher of the game, especially the option, and is a legendary head coach. And by the way, had us laughing so much that I think me and Derek were taking your quotes and your stuff about Jimmy Valvano and Iona, and we couldn't stop laughing about it. But welcome back to the podcast, Coach Demeo.
Yeah, it's great to be here, and as I said, I'm it's an honor to be on with DJ, who's won 9 state titles. I mean, coaching high school football is a lot more difficult than coaching college football by far, because I can go get the players that I want. DJ has to coach the players that he has, and to win 9 state championships is an unbelievable task and an unbelievable honor. Right? So, I'm always I love great high school coaches, and I've been around a lot of them. Philip Hayward in Kentucky, for example, at Belfry, has won so many state titles. I mean, at a small school. And they play like in Louisville Male and beat them. I mean, he's just a great coach. Or Tony DiMatteo up in New York is a great football coach. Tony, I like him for 2 reasons. Number one, he's Italian. Number 2, I'm Italian, so I figure that's a pretty good mix. But I've known Tony forever. And when I was at Iona, he was one of the key guys. Anybody who didn't get signed, he sent to me. And so half my starting lineup was from him, and they were already coached. That's what I mean about being a high school coach. I benefited from his coaching ability, and I'm sure a lot of college coaches have benefited from DJ's coaching ability. So coaching high school football, I have great respect for them because they do a better job. Quite frankly, I mean, they don't have to recruit. If they could, they'd be even better. But they really make the best use of their players much more than college coaches. That's my opinion.
I think, Dave. I think in that case, because I know Tony's background, and I've been in the room when he spoke, and because I'm from New York, I know Iona. You know, my mother's a graduate of New Rochelle. My dad's a graduate of Pelham. And, you know, even though I grew up on Long Island, I'm very well aware of it. And an interesting thing for Coach Demeo, I listened to your podcast with these guys, and you spoke about Coach Valvano. Now, I was a little young yet. I think I was only like a freshman in high school. But all those kids he brought were from Long Island. You know, Jeff Rulin, the Vickers brothers, you know, Kevin Hamilton. Yeah, you know, Middleton. Yeah, he was in the program too. But all those guys were Long Island guys when, you know, when I was a freshman in high school, and basketball was really a big thing. So,
Yeah.
I always wondered why those guys weren't getting recruited as much. But once, I think he had to get Glenn Vickers first. That was the big one.
Yeah, Glenn, he was a great player. Yeah,
and Glenn and Brian were both very good high school football players. And then he got Jeff Rulin, and then the whole world changed when he got Jeff. So
Jeff was one of the great guys too. I mean, he was always hung around with the football players. Was a great guy. It was interesting. Valvano, when he went after Rulin, he knew Rulin was going to be the difference, and he went after him, you know, tooth and nail. But his philosophy of recruiting DJ was, it's like putting stones in a jar. Get the big stone and put them in first, and then the littler stones, then the pebbles, then the sand, and then you'll fill up the jar. But if you put the little pebbles in first, you might not get the big one in there. So he went after Vickers first, because he told me Vickers will help me get Rulin.
Vickers will get you anybody.
That's the way it worked.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting thing about Valvano. He was a high school quarterback at Seaford High School.
Yeah. Wow.
So we were recruiting, and he had the cubicle next to mine. And he would spend more time in my cubicle than he did in his. And every once in a while, I got a word in. You know, but so anyway, he brings in this old film, and he says, "Hey, here's a quarterback. You got to recruit this kid. He's phenomenal." So as soon as he put it on, I knew it was him. You know, it just the way he was moving around, and he was wearing number 12 and had white shoes. And I said, "God, come on, Jimmy." I said, "This guy has no athletic ability at all." I said, "He looks like a clown." And he was getting madder and madder. He goes, "Look at him throw! Look at him throw!" I said, "Come on, there's a wobble in it. He doesn't even throw a good spiral. He's horrible. Where'd you get this thing?" And then I couldn't stop. I had to quit because he was getting so upset. But he was a character. I mean, I had so much fun with the guy, and he taught me a ton. I was 4 years younger than him. Pardon me?
I can imagine just sitting there, just being a sponge.
He was 4 years older than me, and he talked about the secrets of winning. And he said every game has a formula to win, and your job as a head coach is to find that formula. So sometimes it might be to put your foot on the gas and run fast break, high speed tempo. And sometimes it might be to put it down to a crawl. So, like, tempo wasn't an ideology for him. It was a tool.
Right.
And one of his favorite sayings was, "He who controls the pace wins the race." And lo and behold, when he won the national championship, they only scored 52 points.
Right. They slowed it down.
Win. And the other thing that was interesting that he always told me was, the only lead that matters is the one at the end of the game.
Yes, sir.
He said, you don't have to get the lead in the first quarter or the second, as long as you're close enough that you can win at the end of the game. And sure enough, Lorenzo Charles stuffed it on the last play of that game. But he was great to me, and we kept in touch. I left Iona a year before he did. I left him after the 78 season. I went to Penn. And he left after the 1980 season and went to North Carolina State. But we stayed close till he passed. And he was just a great mentor and a great friend. And like when I was at Mercyhurst and we beat Widener at Widener. Bill Manilow was one of the greatest coaches that ever walked the sidelines. And we beat them. It was their first home loss in 8 years.
Ooh.
And they were the team of the 80s. They had the best record of any team, college football team in the 80s. He had Billy White Shoes Johnson and all those guys.
Yep.
And we beat them at Widener. And Jimmy sent me a note, handwritten note, commending me on that. And he saw that we scored 10 points. We won 17-7 and scored 10 points in the fourth quarter. And he said, that's what he quoted. He said, the only lead that matters is the one at the end. Yeah. So anyway, he was a great influence on me, DJ. He really was.
Yeah. Well, now I know why you didn't recruit me in Iona. Because my last high school football season was 78. And then to make matters worse, Coach, where you left Iona, if you'd recruited me Iona, then I wouldn't have to have played against Widener 4 times in college and, had really bad things happen to me during that time period.
Where'd you go, DJ?
I went to Moravian.
Okay.
Went to Moravian. So
they
I
were
played
really good. Widener, Bill Manlove is one of my favorite. As a matter of fact, he's the guy who really got me hired at Penn from Iona. He saw our Iona Fordham game, and and I was throwing the ball out of the wishbone at the time, and he told Harry Gamble, who may rest in peace, he was the coach at Penn and the AD. He said, this young guy down in Iona is doing some interesting things. You should bring him in. So when he had an opening, I went there as his offensive coordinator, and I'd been a head coach for 4 years and wasn't 30 years old yet.
Yeah.
So I go there, and I'm the youngest guy on the staff, and cocky as could be. I mean, I didn't think I knew a lot about football. I thought I invented. I thought I was. And he used to bring me down to earth all the time. He'd say, Tony, I grew up a play. I said, they can't stop this. They can't stop this play. That was my favorite thing, And the patience of a saint. And he would say, Tony, you're not the only genius in the Ivy League. There are others with chalk.
Which resonates a little bit different too when you're talking about the Ivy League.
Yeah,
well,
he was really, really. I always say this: when I went to Penn, I knew how to coach. Harry Gamble taught me how to be a coach. It's a big.
That's
difference.
awesome.
Yeah, Harry Gamble and Bill Manlove were very close, and Bill Manlove is actually doing a Zoom clinic presentation in a Zoom thing that I do every Wednesday morning this week on special teams. So I'm going to invite you in, Coach Demeo.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he would flip out if he saw me. We were really good friends. He came up to my summer cabin and spent a day with me, and really good friends.
Yeah.
DJ, talk about that Wednesday clinic that you do. I know it's a bright and early one.
Well, it's bright and early because I was still teaching. I retired from teaching. It was around the COVID time, and I didn't really have to rush to school because they had closed us out. So I was looking for people to talk to about football. So it started off with I went through really D3 football, and I started contacting guys. And of course, all of you guys know how many Division III schools come to your building. Not as much as before.
Never.
They come to your building. So you get relationships, and whether you had kids or not, and you're trying to point them in a direction to find kids because it's much volume recruiting, which, in volume sales, that's usually not overly successful. So you're trying to help them. But then you get to the point, I was teaching 5 history classes a day. They would just kind of show up.
Right.
Look, I got to teach this class. So they would come in and sit in a class with me. And sometimes guys would teach the class with me, which is fun. The late Steve DiGregorio, when he was at Princeton, was doing that with me at Glen Rock because I played against Steve at Muhlenberg.
Yeah, that's awesome.
When he was at Muhlenberg. But bottom line was start putting guys on the board. Say, look, I need a little help with this. And they love doing it. A lot of the guys are younger guys, and they need – Coach Demeo, you'll know this. I imagine you would understand this. The problem for a lot of guys that are coaching is today they don't want to go to clinics. They want to get everything off YouTube, which is fine. But they need to get up in clinic. So I kind of came up with a model. Guys, I got a guy come in and speak from the University of Dubuque. I contacted everybody because I didn't think it'd be one of the Division III guys. And I was pretty much correct. So they would talk. So I said, maybe I contacted a buddy of mine and said, why don't we put this thing together? I'll just run the Zoom. And I started inviting guys in to speak on topics. So it was at 6 a.m. because some people, had to get to work or whatever. There was college guys in there. And that was 4 years ago. And I've been running it ever since.
It's awesome.
January through like mid-May, and then it kind of runs its course. And we just talk football for a couple hours, and we just had one this past week where I spoke. It was the worst one we've ever had.
Yeah, that's great. We do.
Yeah.
Coach Jerry Gallagher, who's at Del Barton now, obviously a Morris County, wing T guru, but also now a special teams guy. So we do one with a bunch of guys, same thing, every Wednesday night at 7, just a group of guys just talking on specials. And we get, some college guys that came in, and they just pick a topic and we just kind of roll with it. So that type of stuff. And I've talked to Dave about it a ton, especially like a guy who kind of as a younger coach came through the ranks and kind of worked my way up as I did it. That was key. And that was some of the most important, advice that I got was go to clinics. But once you've gone to a few, now start to try and speak at clinics because, as a teacher, the best way to check and see if somebody truly understands the material is, can you teach it back to me? Right. So I think, like these younger guys, I'm not knocking them because, they're still there and they still want to do it. But, they all come in and they just think because, they played Madden that they can come call plays. And it's like, buddy, this is a little different than you think, man. There's a lot more to it than just sitting here looking at a sheet, calling plays,
But I think there's a responsibility as you move on in your coaching career to pay it forward and develop people. And again, it's not just X's and O's. I mean, but it is X's and O's. But there's something everybody can be good at in every profession, right? So I know when we were head coach, my concern always with the head coaching portion of things is something I got with one of my college teammates, who was essentially having worked for NCR like he has since he got out of college. He's a computer science major. When you go down to the stadium in Atlanta, he was in charge of the whole NCR wiring.
Whew.
Same thing in Houston. He's worked in Home Depots in South Africa. He can tell you some great stories about the Middle East with some of the tension that's over there when you get out of a car and there's guys up in a machine gun nest, and you got to go in and work. But he told me the reason I said, you say him Joe. His name is Joey Salcetti. Coach Demeo would be very excited about that. Salcetti. He's an Island kid. He's an Island, New Jersey kid. And Joe told me the reason he didn't go up into upper management was, and this is what I mean with the head coaching. The minute you do that and you go away from essentially boots on the ground with a position coach or what Joe was doing with the wiring, he says you immediately lose your expertise in the field.
100%.
It's always the fear of the head coach. What do I really coach football anymore?
Right.
Like could I? And you heard Chip Kelly talk about it a few weeks back. He said his offense coordinator got a great opportunity from UCLA to go up to Oregon State. And Chip came home one day. He says, I guess I got to coach the quarterbacks again. And he hadn't and his wife said to him, "This is the happiest I've seen you to get ready for a bowl game."
And he was in it.
It's because I'm coaching some kids. Like you don't always get to coach. And I think you have to be really careful of that you don't lose your expertise in something because it takes the fun out of the game for you because you objectify your players and objectify the game. I mean, we all wish we'd go out there and play tailback or receiver or quarterback again, but we physically can't.
Right.
But that's what we really feel when we walk on the field anyway, is we're trying to go out there and play too. That's why we still do it. So,
Tony, talk about the book you piggybacking off of what DJ's doing with his Zoom meeting with the coaches. Talk about the book that you just released and the concepts of it. I know Derek picked up a copy. He could probably talk a little bit more about it, but I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about what we got on there. So we should go grab that right off the Amazon shelves there,
What happened was I got a call from
I thought that was me. I saw my screen fly forward.
Oh, just as you was getting into it. Listen, it's like a 400-page book on the.
Is it really?
Oh, it goes from like point A to Z and everything option football. I mean, look, he had me, just from reading it, I called, Manny Matsakis and was like, hey, when did you and Tony link up and kind of like figure out that option was going to be a part of this spread game? So I even got into it like that just because look, even being in the run and shoot from the jump, we always had some form of speed option, or, we would ride the super back on a belly and then pull and then run option with the receiver coming with a comet motion. It was always a part of our offense. And to be honest, I loved it. I thought it was great. I loved it when I played quarterback. I loved it when I played.
Sorry about that.
Slot. No, you're good, Coach. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Finish.
I mean, I don't know what's happening. This like all of a sudden it just cuts me off. It has to do with the app.
Oh, really?
StreamYard, whatever it's called.
You're good,
But
Coach.
anyway,
You're good.
you asked me about the book. What happened was a guy from Coach's Choice, Jim Peterson, called and asked me if I would write this book on my journey with option football. And I said, "No, I'm done with books." The last one I wrote was I wrote a leadership book, but I was done writing books. And he said, "Well, you can make it interactive and include video in the book."
Yep.
And I said, "Oh, well, that sounds interesting." And he said, "Yeah, we want you to take it from how you learn the option all the way through to the triple gun and RPOs and all that stuff." So then it intrigued me, and I did it. I put it together, which was really a lot more difficult than I thought, because I included a video. Well, Derek, you have the book. In other words, if I had a gun triple versus a 3-4, you had the text, the diagram, and then hit the link,
and bam, it comes right up.
Yeah, it would come up, and you could see the actual play.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
Let me tell you, I've seen a lot of books. I've been at a lot of clinics where guys show plays that in my head I'm saying, I don't see how this could work. But there's never any film. There's no video.
Exactly.
I mean, you could write anything there if you don't have to back it up.
Right.
So anyway, I did the book, but in the meantime, Jim Peterson sold Coach's Choice. So now I have a book that I worked for like 2 years on, trying to match up these videos and stuff. And the new owner of Coach's Choice wasn't interested in an interactive book. It was either video or a book. Well, I've already done that. I've been there, done that. Wasn't interested. So then a couple of guys got in touch with me, one being the company that did do it, Throw Deep. And it's Alex Kirby. And he was real interested in it. And he wanted to do it. And that's how it got published. That's how it got done. But I think it's a good book. I don't want to put words in Derek's mouth, but I go from my time that I started. I didn't know anything about the option. And I was coaching at a high school as a permanent sub, and I was going to be their offensive coordinator, even though I didn't know my butt from a watermelon. And so anyway, I didn't know anything about it. And the guy said, "I want to run the wishbone." Well, the only wishbone I ever dealt with was with a turkey. So, I mean, I didn't know anything. So naturally, I did what any normal human would do. I called Darryl Royal. I wrote a letter to Darryl Royal, explained my dilemma. And lo and behold, he invited me down for spring practice.
Yeah, that's crazy in itself. I think that's phenomenal. Just even back then, you could literally write a letter to a coach, and the whole coaching fraternity, "Hey, you know what? Come on down, buddy. I don't know who you are, but come on down."
I was too stupid to know that he was just being polite. So I went down there, went straight to his office with my suitcase and everything. And I said, "Hi, I'm here to see Coach Royal." And the secretary said, "Is he expecting you?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, he's expecting me." And he came out and he treated me great. He treated me royally. I mean, he introduced me to his staff. He said, "This is my friend from New York. I want you to take care of him, blah, 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 blah." And they did. The only thing they said, "We start our meetings at 7, be here before 7, because we don't want you just walking into a meeting."
Yeah.
So I was there at 6:45 every day with donuts and treats and stuff like that. And I learned for 2 weeks, I just learned the wishbone inside and out. And Coach Royal would come on the field and actually put his arm around me and take me behind the huddle. And there was a lot of college coaches there and that were observing that weren't getting to go on the field. So I would come off, and they'd come. Like I remember the guy from Oklahoma State came over and said, "Hey, who are you?" You know, like Coach Royal just took me out on the field. I said, I'm nobody. I'm nobody. I said I'm a substitute teacher and a high school coach. I said, I'm nobody. He
Yeah,
said,
but
"What
they
are
knew
you
you were an Italian guy from New York. They were nervous.
I don't know. Maybe he was worried about my Uncle Rocco or something.
That's what I'm saying. They were a little nervous.
So, but anyway, that's how I did the book. I started with that experience, and then went through my years at Iona and years at Pace. I never did get to coach it because before I had the chance, I had two offers, one from Iona, one from Pace as an assistant, and one from Fordham. And I chose Pace because the Giants were training there at the time.
Right. Yep. I read that in the book.
I shadowed Bill Arnsbarger. I mean, I literally was the biggest pain in the tail for him. He would take a step to the right. I would take a step to the right. I studied the Giants inside and out, how they practiced, their drills, everything. Anytime I had an open minute, I was in their offices or watching what they were doing. And I really learned a ton. It was like going to graduate school. And so I had the Giants playbook in my head. I had the wishbone in my head. And then I get the call that they're looking for a head coach at Iona. And I said, well, the trainer called me, J.B. Bruno, and he said, I said, what about Bob Baker? He goes, no, he's at Manhattan. He turned it down. I said, what about Tony Demeo? He turned it down. I said, what about Bob? He turned it down. I said, where exactly am I on this list? Turns out they had offered the job to a couple of waiters, and I was right behind them on the list. I was only 25 years old. And so I get the job at Iona, and to top it off, there's nobody who had played quarterback on the roster. So I installed the vanilla wishbone, just as they did it at Texas, put a safety at quarterback, and we had finished second in the conference. We were picked last, finished second, and didn't score many points, but we had the ball the whole time.
Right.
We just controlled the clock. And that was, again, Valvano's influence. He said, when you can't score baskets or you can't score touchdowns, you have to at least hang on to the ball and shorten the game. So that was a big thing for me.
Yeah, it's what's interesting about what you said with Dow Royal. I watched a whole thing on how Oklahoma put the wishbone in, and Switzer, and before that Wilkinson. But Wilkinson went down to Dow. They went to Dow Royal, and Dow Royal taught them the triple option, and literally taught it to them, and that's how they got it at Oklahoma. And he said that he shouldn't have taught it to, but Wilkins. They end up winning 47 straight or something at one point. And then obviously Barry Switzer had a lot of success with it as well. But it's so interesting hearing you actually live that, because I watched that documentary on that exact thing and how welcoming Dow Royal was. It's interesting because college coaches now at the higher level, it's not that they're less welcoming maybe, but it's their time is constrained. And
they're just wearing so many hats now.
Well, it's difficult to get the same amount of information that you might have gotten in the past, and even the information you do get, like some of the clinics I've gone to, they safeguard a little bit of it. Like I told Derek this, the last great clinic, not what like DJ's doing with Zooms, where obviously you're divulging all the information, but the last great clinic I went to was right before, it might have been a couple of weeks before COVID up in Connecticut.
It literally was, Dave. It was literally like 2 weeks that Nike clinic was. Right
before COVID happened. So
before everything shut down.
And so Ed Orgeron and Dabo Sweeney were the like guest speakers. The head coach from Iowa, Friends was one of the speakers, and then Randy Edsel, and I think I might have Randy Edsel was one of the speakers.
That's your guy.
Of course, the end of Randy Edsels' reign.
That's your guy.
Second reign at UConn, which was not as successful as his first reign. But what was so interesting was all the coaches there really were still breaking it down. Watched Ed Orgeron literally give an hour-and-a-half clinic on the defensive line. They brought him there to talk about his national championship, and he basically talked about that for about 10 seconds, and then really rolled up his sleeves and went through the D-line and brought guys up. Dabo Sweeney did the same thing, almost the same exact thing with receiver play. And then I watched Randy Edsall break down defensive back play. I realized then he actually is a good coach. And when he broke down defensive back play, no, I know he's a great coach. He second round, he told me recruiting was not what it was before when he first came there the first time. And I don't think he wanted to get into it. But defensive back play was unbelievable. Kirk Ferenz was unbelievable. And I thought, wow, that was incredible. So the COVID happened. And then everything went to Zoom, which was good, but the in-person stuff was not as good. And then we go to in-person stuff, and all of a sudden now coaches, because they had to protect their turf with the transfer portal, and now I guess with NA, I don't know, they had to protect their turf a little bit. We're not as all diving into it. So I think it's really interesting, DJ, that like I got to jump because I get your emails. I got to jump on to the clinic because that's the thing I love best. Like, I
love that.
I didn't know what anybody else thought about when Ed Orgeron was doing the D-line stuff, but I was at the edge of my seat. And I've only coached D-line, I think, once when I was with you, DJ. I was at the edge of my seat because I was so fascinated on the different leverage points that he was talking about on how to play the D-line. And he was talking not just the defensive end stuff, which everybody gets excited about. He was doing D-tackle nose guard stuff, which was like, I mean, for me, it was mind-blowing, the stuff he was going through, the nuances of defensive line play, and specifically defensive tackle play and nose guard play, and how intricate he taught it simply, but how intricate it was, like where you had to be in order to gain leverage to be able to be successful as a defensive tackle or a nose guard. And I think those are the kind of things. Maybe you guys could talk a little bit about some of the sweet spots that you think there are to teach young coaches. And you both are doing it in your own way, but the sweet spot to teach young coaches things that they need to know that you're not going to get on YouTube. Because on YouTube you might get some great stuff, but when you go on YouTube, you get stuff that's good and you get stuff that's taught wrong, in my opinion.
Boy.
I see things that's taught wrong. I mean, I see it more than ever with wide receiver play. I can't tell you how many times I see wide receivers making 50 moves at the line and guys teaching them to make 50 moves at the line when you go to a higher level, all that guy's going to do is jam you 5 yards back and you're not going anywhere. You do 50 moves to go nowhere, So maybe DJ, you could talk about it first, like what a little bit of the things that you think could really start to help young coaches to learn more.
All right, I'll give you a few things here. One thing I'll pose to you guys, we can answer this by the end. If each one of you guys had one plane ticket and you go shadow a coach for one portion of the game, not a game itself, but you wanted to go watch that person coach, it doesn't have to be schematic. I want you to think about who that person would be. And that person could also be somebody if we were able to bring them back to life. If they
I'm done. I already know where I'm going.
All right, Bob,
I know who mine is.
Well, that's a thought. Two, real quickly, as Coach Demeo was talking about, Darryl Royal and Emily Ballard's name should be thrown in there because he's really a triple option guy, right? Well, interestingly, the reason Royal gave all that information to Switzer is Royal's an Oklahoma grad.
Yep.
Right. So he kind of felt like he owed. But here's the thing. We had a guy give a clinic month and a half ago. His name is JB Wells. He's the OC at Coast Guard Academy.
Yep.
And here's what the clinic was: how to play center.
That's amazing.
Oh, it was amazing. I'll send you guys a clinic. It is a fantastic clinic. So,
holy shit.
And when you
like, when have you ever heard of that being a topic for anyone?
Oh, it was ridiculous. And when you talk, David, about the receivers, I don't know what disciple I am of anything. I would that wouldn't be true, like football wise, even though my dad was a coach. Probably more, as you know, Dave, more basketball oriented in my mind. So my mind works. But if you ever read the book Blood, Sweat, and Chalk, you need to read that book. Yeah.
Ron
Blood,
Jaworski's book?
No, it's Blood, Sweat, and Chalk. I probably got a copy right over there. In fact, I know I do. It's sitting right over there in my living room. I don't have a piano though, so I don't want to go over it.
or an aura.
But I will get you that author. But in there's a whole gig on Don Coryell.
Oh,
And Don Coryell was he came up through the ranks pretty interestingly, including junior college. And then he went to San Diego State, which Tony and I will know this. At that time, San Diego State, anybody they got was a junior college transfer.
Really?
That's what the Fresno States were getting. Oh yeah, that's what they were getting. George Allen.
Well, because I think like the junior college world is way bigger in California than it is anywhere
But that's
else.
what
there's
they
a
could get.
shit ton of JUCOs.
Well, there's a lot going on there. Remember, freshmen were ineligible.
Oh, that's right. Freshmen couldn't even play, right? Wasn't that a
Right.
big thing with the university? Like when Marshall went down, the plane went down. They got a whatever so that they could play freshmen.
Yeah, it was really hard. You couldn't play freshmen for quite a long time. I mean, even to the 70s for a long time. But my point is this: that
Damn.
Coryell felt as though he had to put together an offense that you could do the minute you walked in, especially with the receivers.
Tim Lee.
And his thought was always this: he and Zambezi Zambezi were talking about this all the time. What a staff they had, right? I mean, Madden was on that staff, and Tony just left. All right.
You need a bathroom break. We're okay.
That's okay. But I think Coryell, Dave used to talk about get off the ball and get in the route. That's all I want you to do. Get off the ball and get into the route. All right. And anytime you're sacrificing verticality, line of scrimmage, defensive win. All right. So what advice would I give to young guys, not forgetting the question? I think they have to see. Here's the advice I give them. It's not an X and O thing. It's not even a fundamental thing. They have to get out and see other people coach who are good at things. Examples. Go watch Howie Schuman, David's dad, coach. Go watch Jeff Jasper, coach. All right. If you could, can you get in? Can you sneak in and make like you're mopping the floor and watch Gino Auriemma coach?
Oh,
all right. I think those are the things. Can you go watch Brian?
I would kill to be a water boy at that practice.
Well, I mean, and again, there's so much to it, but here's something I did even when I got to Riverdale. We weren't very good, and by then David had gone to coach at his alma mater, and we were starting to get closer, but we weren't in the playoffs the first 3 years. And I sent out an email to some guy named Drew Gibbs.
Never heard of him, right?
I said, Coach, I said, I don't even know if you know who I am. I said, but I would like to come watch your practice. You're getting ready for the playoffs. Not only did Drew say yes, and again, Drew and I didn't walk in the same circles, but
right.
I mean, what a fantastic teacher. All right. So I got to go over to watch the practice, and I got an email from him after the practice. I sent him a thank you. He says, so make sure you're there today. So he told me to come back the second day. Now later, we hadn't started playing them yet.
Right.
And I got to watch him do this. And it gave some pizzazz to what we were doing, but I also learned some things about what it was that he was doing we could improve. So my advice would be, you've got to get out and watch how people coach. And then you'll learn what it is your whatever your material. It's no different than when I first started teaching, where our department chair at Wallkill Valley would sit in our class. We finished teaching class, Derek, and you had to go report to Mr. Russ Rogers and talk about the class.
Right.
And it was constantly this conversation. You got a free period. Go watch Dr. Josephsberg teaching English.
Absolutely.
100%. I mean,
Dr. Josephsberg, not Bernie Josephsberg.
Bernie.
So here, I got to tell you.
I taught with Bernie at Wallkill Valley, became the soup at Leone, yeah.
So I don't think I've ever told you this story about Bernie Josephsberg. So
he played at Tenafly, right?
Yes, and he was a great. He played at Columbia, I think, also, right?
Very good running back, yeah.
So Bernie Josephsberg, when I interviewed at Pal Park Leonia, Bernie Josephsberg, he's the reason why I took the job.
Yeah.
buttoned up guy, really smart guy, truly an educator. Okay. Truly an educator. And I came in there and he said to me, he said, listen, he said, these places do not really value football that much. He's like, this is not going to be a quick fix. It's going to take you 5 years to get to where you want to go.
Love that honesty, by the way.
Yes, he's going to take. He said that. He said as long as I'm here, I'm going to give you the opportunity to get to where you want to go. And what's so interesting about it, he said, I don't want you to take this job, like, because they already Robleski, had already offered it to me. The guy who's now the superintendent at Leone, the guy who was the principal there, reluctantly gave it to me. He was not really a huge fan of mine, and him and Bernie used to clash. But Bernie said to me, you're going to have to be able to deal with all that. But he said, I think you'll have a chance to get to where you want to, but you're going to have to give it 5 years. And what was amazing was when we were in the state championship was the 5th year. Okay. And he came over, he was retiring, which meant my clock would be ticking then at that point.
Yeah. Like, hey, it's almost over, buddy.
Yes. Just how it is being not being a teacher and, being in the school, like that's usually what happens when whoever my advocate is not there. So,
seen it firsthand.
Yes, you have. So so he comes up to, I knew he was retiring at the end of the year, and then I came over to him. I said, I remember what you said to me. I said, this is the 5th year, and we're in the state championship game, and I said, I can't thank you enough. Like, I may not see him again. I said, I can't thank you enough. We would not, if you didn't say that to me, we would not be here, because literally, you know how it is as a coach, right? Your timeline is shorter than what everybody else tells you. Like, you want it to be quicker, and he had the wisdom to say to me, listen, I know what you want to do. I know how you want to do it, but you're going to have to be patient and let the things happen. And then you'll have the chance to get there. And he didn't say you will get there. He said you'll have
the opportunity.
You'll have the
right?
chance to get to where you want to go. And it did happen. We didn't win the state championship game. We lost that game, but it was a win just for us to get there. Just, if you're from North Jersey, you know how tough it is there, to have the opportunity, and the run we had for a short while was pretty great. But yeah, Bernie Joseph's, it's amazing. I didn't realize that you told me. He really was, and I don't know where he is now, but it's interesting when you talk about where meeting with and watching somebody work is so important. Like when I would get quote unquote in trouble, or somebody was upset with something I was doing, every other person that I've ever, other than the guy who worked for Red Bank before he left, he was the greatest about it when he bring you in, but he was awesome. But when Bernie brought me in to talk to me, he brought me into his office, and I knew even if he was upset with me, that he was going to talk through your rationale about everything before he came to any possible solution to the problem.
Right.
And being there where there was a lot of enemies within, one of the buildings, and he was the superintendent of that school. He knew that, and he would tell me how to navigate it. He would be like, listen, you're going to have to back off on this, and you can go forward on that. And and he's
like almost like choose your battles, right?
But you knew he was there. He was telling you that because from an educator standpoint,
hell yeah,
he had been through it, and he understood that with your personality and what you are, that you're going to have to now approach it this way, or step back on this, or go forward with this. And he was so good with it. Every time he brought me in, he was one of the few guys that when he brought me in, I didn't feel like I was actually going, you know how it is. When they bring you in, they make you feel like you're going to, like you're a kid again, going to the principal's office. Yeah. There's no worse feeling than that, And when I was
come in my office
a few too many times. Right.
Hey, come on in the office. Let me close the door. I want to talk to you for a minute.
I'm like,
You're
oh my
just
goodness, am I
going-
going to get yelled at again
Heart
as
rate
a grown man?
starts going up, little dry sweat coming out. I'm like, oh shit, is he telling me I'm not starting this week? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, but it was so good how he did it. He had the conversation. His whole thing was to have a conversation, not to investigate you, but to have a conversation to understand what you were thinking, because obviously he already heard what the other people were thinking.
Correct.
Right? But to hear what you were thinking and to come to a solution for things. And that was something I always like. He's an unheralded person in the sense that he kind of went off. He, retired, and you never heard from Bernie again, right? So anyway,
I tell if I ever could see Bernie again, I always kid people who were at Walk Hill, who went on to so much success. And I used to say to a few of them, I said, Walk Hill Valley is a great place to be from. Yeah, so it's like you left there. But Bernie was so good in the classroom. I know his career pretty well. From where when he went to Columbia, I mean, he taught an elite private school in, I think, New Trier in Chicago. But the great thing about Dr. Josephsberg was, and you have to be able to do this as a coach, you got to keep your poise, but you have to be able to go there.
Absolutely.
All right. And he could go there. And I saw him go there.
You got to be able to, whoop.
No, so he could get down into your territory.
Yep.
In a heartbeat. And then there was no doubt. And then you go back to being Dr. Bernie Josephsberg. I guess we're going to do some Chaucer today. But the thing was, he was in the classroom. So he was really a teacher. So when he got into an administrative capacity, that was a natural,
right,
evolution for him. So
right. And sometimes guys can't make that transition, right? Like sometimes it's very tough for teachers to go to that administrative role, and I've seen it, but I have been so fortunate to be around great coaches, right, that were just, on a different level, right? Like Greg Toll, you go in there and it's like, okay, well, that's his way of doing things, we had a coach Billy Johnson on a couple weeks ago. He was the first DC I ever worked with, right?
Passaic Valley.
What? Yep, at Passaic Valley, and it was like defense 101. Here I am, a young kid coming out of college. I get my first opportunity to be on a staff, and I get to work with him and Al Capello, who was, a college coach with me, a good player at Montclair State, and then to go to Passaic Valley. Like that was, I think, being around such good coaches, right? Like then I got to work with Jimmy Matsakis, but even the way I was coached, Mark Mickens, Bob Jones, right? Like these guys were real coaches where it was more than just X's and O's because they were great at that part of it too. But, I watched Coach Jones, basically end his career as a head coach to go be an administrator within the building, right? So I saw that transition. Coach Mickens was never an educator, right? But he coached at it from, he was like a used car salesman, man, but he approached the game, in that type of way. And then the transition through, I got to play for Rick Giancola. I mean, one of the greatest, winningest coaches, 30 years at the same type of school. I think the greatest thing for me, and I always loved it, was just seeing how each individual coach just presented everything, right? Because even if you're XOing on a board, they're doing it a certain way. Or if you're having a conversation on the side with one of your players, who's doing it that way? Who's a whistle guy, right? Some guys don't even use whistles or whatever. I think taking all of that and observing all of that, and then you create who you are based off of what you've seen.
Yeah, and then you got your clientele, because your clientele dictates how you do a lot of things. It's like choosing what you're going to do schematically and kind of how you're going to approach it. And
right.
I think every school's different. You would think that Riverdale is very similar to Glen Rock, and it's nowhere near the same place.
Look, Butler Kinnelon.
Yeah.
Wow. Those are. What's interesting about that's true, but Derek, right? Butler, Kinnelon, West Milford,
same damn zip code.
Three places in the same area, all completely different. But I think you're right about Riverdale. I noticed that when I came there. So like
Riverdale is surrounded.
Riverdale had an edge. Some of those kids had an edge. like maybe it was the River Edge influence, and of course everything now is expensive.
Coach,
So
give
it
me
doesn't matter.
can you give me the geography of it?
Okay,
Riverdale is one town.
River Edge is part of our district, and Oradell is
Got
part of the district. We are bordered by Emerson, New Milford, Paramus, and really not quite Westwood, not quite Ridgewood, but Westwood's right down the street. We're a stone throw away from Pascack Valley. We share a street. But put it this way, we play 4 trophy games a year.
There you go.
All right, Paramus, we play for a street sign, all made by John Ferrelli, by the way. All right.
Oh, John Ferrelli.
Yeah. So we have possession of none of
Is he still around with you? Is he still around?
He'll come by. He's
Okay.
still busy, but he's a grandpa now. So John Jr. is a dad. You married.
He said we play for a street sign.
Yeah, a street sign. That's a Paramus game. They have that. If you want to go see the street sign, you need to go to Paramus High School.
Who's there now? Hey, Coach.
Joe Sabella. All right.
Oh, he's still there. Okay.
So then we have.
Holy smokes! What an adventure this has been.
Coach, you're all good, buddy.
All right, we play for a Birdcage for the Bird Bowl against Westwood. We play for the Battle of the Rumble for the Rail against Pascack Valley, which is a real piece of the Pascack Valley Railroad. And now we play Old Depand every year. They're on the schedule. I wouldn't say they're games. I mean, they're just slaughtering us at this point. But
yeah, but they've been a monster for a while.
Well, we put something together on that. We took a plunger and half of a medicine ball, glued it together, so we played for the plunger for the Gold Bowl. Right, they have that too. No.
That's interesting. But listen,
I have an answer. I have an answer to your question.
Like,
okay.
Dave, those are the type of things like kids love that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
the opponents really like it because
I'm sure
they have it. All right, they have the thing that we made.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, look.
Can we get one of them back, fellas?
Yeah, you gotta get one of them back.
All right. So
well, I mean, look. You look at what is it? Almost the last week of the college season, right? Who's playing for the boot, or who's playing for this, or everybody's got kind of like a rivalry game, right? You know, it just so happens that you have 4 in high school, right?
Yeah, we have 2 in a row. We have the second and third game this year, and then we have our last 2 regular season games. But just so we, because I think you got to get Tony involved in this a lot more while we.
That's what I was just gonna ask.
Dave, who are you gonna follow around? Who are you gonna
so the first guy, because you said I could choose dead.
I don't know what has happened, but no matter, this thing just keeps cutting out on me. I'm on my phone now.
Okay.
Well, hopefully
I'm happy. Yeah. Hey, I'm happy. You know how to work the phone and be able to do that, Coach. Like, you're ahead of most of the guys that we got. So
go ahead, Dave.
All right. So since it's dead or alive, number 1 is Bear Bryant.
Okay.
And just because I've read so much stuff on him, and I just fascinated how he adapted over the years and all that kind of stuff, and how basically football was in the fiber of him, and just his leadership style, like basically how he had to evolve from, obviously Junction Boys and all the way to where he had to adapt, where he was not doing any of that level of stuff that he was doing, 30 years before that. And then the second guy, to me, just because of the system he runs, the way he thinks about it, is Mike Leach. Because his system is so simple, but yet so difficult for guys to cover. And it's funny, if you ask me that question, when I first started coaching, I probably would have said Barry Switzer because of the triple option. And I was obsessed as a kid with Jamel Holloway and Charles Thompson and the triple option and how well they ran it. And I was coaching when as DJ knows, when I first started coaching, I was coaching at Saddlebrook and they were running the Navy triple option. Right. So I would have said back then, but as I started working with you and really started to learn first the run and shoot game, but then a little bit more of the like multiple passing principles and the multiple set principles, I started to become fascinated with what Leach was doing and how he was really like, and just how he thought, I mean, to me, the thing is, it was the same thing to me that about, we talked about Bernie Josephsberg, the way that somebody thinks is what's fascinating to me. So I know I think about things in some form or fashion. And when I see somebody else that truly thinks about something and how they're doing it, and there's a methodology to it, it fascinates me because I'm trying to figure out what is that person thinking, like what is that person thinking about when they made this decision, or
like why did they do that?
Why did they do that? And that's, I think in coaching, to me, that's what fascinates me. It's why does somebody think about? Same reason why I think the Kansas City Chiefs head coach is fascinating. How
Andy
he
Reid.
thinks, Andy Reid, and how he thinks about things, and how he evolves his system. And it's funny because there in football coaching still today, although less than it used to be, but you still have conventional, what I call conventional coaches that follow a certain system, and how they do things. And then you have quote unquote unconventional coaches, Chip Kelly, you brought up Chip Kelly before, right? He would be like wildly successful, but unconventional. How many head coaches decide to go back and I just want to coach and be an offensive coordinator again? How many guys? To me, that takes tremendous guts and fortitude to say, you know what? I'll take a little bit less. I'll take, instead of getting $8 million a year, I'll take 2.5, which isn't bad either way, but 2.5. And I want to coach the game the way that I want to coach the game. That mindset, that thought process, is incredibly fascinating to me. And that's one of the reasons why, kind of choosing those kind of guys. And a lot of cases, they're all innovators in their own capacity. They thought of Bear Bryant in the end as being the old guard, but when you watch all the stuff of Bear Bryant, he was an innovator in a lot of the things that he does. He kept evolving his offense. He went to the wishbone at one point, right? He evolved his offenses over the years into different things, depending on the type of personnel he had. He went from having no black players, right, to the majority of his roster was black, right, and in the South, and
trendsetter.
And those are the things to me that are so fascinating. They say whether he did it on purpose or not. Obviously scheduling that
USC, that was a big thing. They did a big documentary on that. That was great.
Well, Dave, just a thought. Since Tony's sitting there, and because Tony's really the example here in the room, and guys get a chance to go to that level, that high level, for whatever reason, right? And sometimes when you get to that high level, they feel even a little bit trapped. All right. And, Chip Kelly, in his movement towards being who Chip Kelly is, and it's amazing how things work, right? The wonderful Billy McGovern passed away a year ago, and he was tight with Chip. But Chip actually coached at Johns Hopkins under my high school quarterback, Jim Margraf.
Wow.
Jim Margraf, when he passed away at 58, had the 55th most wins in the history of college football. And I used to kid him. He's a year older than me. He's my high school quarterback. He went to Hopkins. He's obviously smarter than me. And I would say to him, James, I think you're tremendously overrated. And he would say, why do you think I'm overrated? I said, you had Chip Kelly coaching defense.
Yeah.
I said, look, I'm dumb. But I said, you have to prove I'm dumb. You proved you're dumb.
Yeah, like you put it on paper. You really put your stamp.
Yeah. That guy just put down the linebacker coach at Hopkins. You got to put that down there. So when you have Tony in here, now I think we got him back, and you talk about
Tony's had a rough time.
Yeah, but yeah, Tony's having a rough time. But the only way Chip gets to coach football again, and without totally blowing up his W-2 form, is he has to coach at a lower level where nobody cares what he does.
100%.
All right. So the places Tony's been now, if Tony's taking these risks, being the OC at Oklahoma State, that's a little different car wash. That's a little different car wash. All right. So he really still got to coach the game essentially his entire career and still be innovative and be his own pioneer. Now, where he suffered is in the paycheck,
Right.
But he at least he had himself. He didn't have to compromise himself, So Tony, go ahead. Let's ask give Tony a chance here.
Well, I coached at one of the reasons I coached at the level that I coached at, like at Charleston, is because I wanted to do it my way.
Yes.
The control of the program was more important to me than the money at that point. And I wanted to do it my way. I wanted to run the triple gun my way. I wanted to do everything my way of doing it. I wanted the office hours to be my way. I didn't feel I had the good fortune of coaching with Tubby Raymond at 1989. And Tubby used to let us go home right after practice and come in early the next morning and watch the film. But he wanted us to eat with our families.
Yes.
And he said, if you have to work all night, then you're in the wrong line of work. Go sell insurance somewhere. So anyway, I was influenced by a lot of people. Tubby Raymond was a big influence on me. Hired me to put the triple option in with the wing T in 1989. And I had no idea. I never did learn the wing T, but I did put the option game in with it. And I know Chip Kelly pretty well, and I know what he likes to do. And I think there's a lot of merit to him going back to being an OC and doing it his way. And I think that's important. Chip Kelly's got a great offensive mind. I mean, I know him pretty well, and I think he's a heck of a coach. But if I had a guy that I'd go back to and wanted to sit and listen to, it might be Vince Lombardi. And I never met him. I just know about the legend of Vince Lombardi. I never met him. I had the good fortune of spending 2 days with Bill Walsh, and that was a treat. I thought I knew football pretty well. It was 1998. And after talking to him, I felt like I was a neophyte. I had the good fortune of coaching with Tubby Raymond, and again, he's a genius. So, but Vince Lombardi, I'd really like to hear some of the things. I think Vince Lombardi was a better X and O coach than people give him credit for. I mean, the power sweep was really an RPO. It was a strategic flexibility. It could break anywhere along the line of scrimmage, and that was kind of like the triple option could break anywhere along the line of scrimmage. Not really an RPO, but a deal that I call strategic flexibility.
I think that was when I listened to your clinic with these guys, Tony. If I was going to sit down with Tony Demeo and talk about one concept, because I'm sure it goes across your entire football curriculum, whether it's special teams or defense. Look, guys, before we put this in, it's got to have some strategic flexibility. We don't have enough time to put in a whole bunch of different things. It's got to have strategic flexibility. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's why my playlist I had that I called during the game was an index card.
Yes,
that was it. All I had was some unique formations that I would forget about, like empty bunts,
some exotics,
for example, or some unique formations I would have on the index card. But otherwise, I was just going to call gun triple, quick game, some drop back game, play action pass, and jet sweep series, jet sweep ISO, jet sweep, and that was it. We called gun triple 25 times a game, and we were good at it. We got very, very good at it. And, Chuck Noll always said, you can't be brilliant at 30 things. You can only be brilliant at 2 or 3. So focus on those and be brilliant at those. And I believe in that. I think, doing too much was always a problem than doing not enough. Playbooks are too fat. They're obese.
Sure.
My playbook was pretty darn thin. And Derek, you have the book there. What's your opinion? I mean, I know you've said you were deep diving into it. What was your opinion of the book?
Well, I'll tell you what.
Was
the
it
whole
simple,
thing
like I'm saying, or what?
Yeah, it was. I think that was something too that was so great about it. Like, look, it was interactive, right? So it kind of hit on. And coach, as a teacher, you understand that. Look, your audience or your classroom is filled with everybody's their own learner, right? They all learn a certain way. Some guys can just look at it on a board and okay, I get it. Some people need to read it, right, and really dive into it. Some people now have to see it. And I think that was just one of the, not even talking about the actual what's in the book, just the whole presentation of having all of that where I can read, then I can look at it, and now I can actually see it on film. I thought that part of the whole book thing was phenomenal because it's, basically getting a clinic right here. And, just the whole evolution of it itself, and I was talking to David and coach about it. I actually went and talked to like I asked Manny Matsakis, like, hey, when did you and Tony link up to like work together on how to incorporate certain things into each of your systems moving forward? And, I had a great talk with him about it. Just kind of the same thing, how you kind of just, you just coaches talking and moving forward to it. But, the book itself really dives into every aspect of the option itself, but it also made it extremely easy for anybody to pick it up and now can go and kind of work with it and ask, and the questions are all answered within it. So it was a great read for me. I've always been a fan of the option, especially being at a small high school like we were at. It kind of gave us an advantage, especially doing it out of spread and whatnot. So I thought that whole thing with it was great. I think anybody that's really looking into it, because look, you can kind of you can put that offense into a lot of high schools and be successful at it, right? Or it can be a package within your system that you can throw out there and do it, because I think it's easy enough to learn, to pick up, and then go execute with practice and time that you can fit into that schedule. But one thing I did want to point out that you just said, Coach, is
well, I did
offensive.
Since I retired, I did 88 camps to install the gun triple, 3-day camps, and out of those 89 camps, 72 of those 89 teams went to the playoffs the first year they did it.
I
So
just
it
think
is
it puts defenses in a shit spot.
Well, there's no doubt about it.
And what it does is, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Tony. Go ahead.
I said what it does is it takes a few simple concepts that you can master and turns it into a whole offense. Like, for example, we boot off the 3-step.
Yeah.
Again, that takes care of if the boot side, if the quick game side is covered, it turns into a bootleg the opposite way. Well, I got that idea because a quarterback did it by accident, Eddie Ritchie.
Right.
And as we started doing it, I realized that you couldn't defend a perimeter pass in the quick game the same way, because everybody was teaching their guys to get their hands up to defend the quick game, and meanwhile they couldn't chase the quarterback.
Exactly.
With their hands in the air.
And I'll tell you, there were 5 things that, like, in my coaching career from the option, 5 different types of options over the years that definitely had like a major impact. So like the first one for me was when I coached at, and DJ knows I coached at Saddlebrook, and they run the triple, the Navy triple option, right? And that was eye-opening because I had never seen the option run that way before. But then the second time was when I saw Coach Nimphius do out of the run and shoot that little veer option you did, which was so, I don't know if you call it midline, but the way it would be right in the A gap.
Yep, bang, belly, boom, hit it right now.
Off the run, that run and shoot, it was so lethal, and it used to drive the guys at Saddlebrook nuts. It would drive them nuts because it was really, really such a wrinkle. And you probably, I don't even know if you thought about it that way when you were doing it, but it was such a wrinkle off of what you were doing. It was very, very difficult. We would go through the practice week defending all the stuff he did, and then
then bang, that comes out.
For golly, we go. We got to now work on that. We've got to work on that little dive option he does, because it doesn't matter if we can't defend his little dive option, right? So that was the second time. The second thing. The third thing was when I saw really at Texas, and they did a ton of this with Vince Young, the really just the zone read, right? And I started doing it when I had Steve Baharnis, who went and played at Rutgers, and the zone read, and then all the things off of that was like the third time that was like, there's something here. The fourth time in my career, I thought that the option was amazing when I faced it against Passero at Hawthorne. He used to do the little off the wing tee. He did the little belly option, right? And then eventually he got to the gun and he was doing different stuff.
I'll
but
tell you, it's great.
He used to run that little belly option off the wing tee, and he used to drive me bonkers. Because you'd have the wing tee stopped, and then he ran the really the belly option, which is what you probably put in with Tubby Raymond. That's probably where he got it from. And then the last thing, which is like in the last 10 years, is the power read. Really, that quarterback, the jet power read with the quarterback running, or your super speed guy that's going and taking off around the edge, which obviously everyone uses, But it's interesting that, for me, at each time I saw these things, these options in my career, I thought, is this something that I can incorporate in what I'm doing? If I can incorporate it, do I understand it? So if I have to face it, can I stop it? Right. And I think that's what makes the option so amazing. And obviously what you teach with the gun triple, having read your gun triple book is amazing, which was really off, the zone read and taking it to the next level. Cause I saw a guy, I don't know if DJ, do you know Don Morganroth? I don't know if you know Don.
Yeah, we played against.
As a matter of fact,
played against.
I did camps for Don.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We played against Mendham this year and this past year, and Don's on the staff. And Tony will tell you, you'd have to be hard pressed to find somebody who's better at running the option underneath than Coach Morganroth. I mean, Don's outstanding. I mean, I'm telling you, it's coached with the attention to detail. I was more than impressed, and just interesting things that when you watch it, I mean, he has a fullback back a little deeper. You're seeing that a little bit more in the underneath triple. He's back a little deeper. He used to be like, he's going to be at like 3.5 yards. Now you're seeing.
No, he's got to get some more time.
Yeah, I think it comes back to what Tony spoke about in your clinic, your podcast with him when he went to the gun. Because it's like the $64,000 question: how deep should the quarterback be in the gun to run the triple? And Tony wanted to give that running back a chance to cut back. I mean, right. we can all run that. Look, if you can get a thug just to run up in there and bang it up, but
right.
All day. Yep.
But to make it different, you have to look in the triple option on a high school level. Where do you play your best running back? Well, you got to play him at fullback. You have to play him at fullback. He's got a chance to get the ball the most. The second best runner probably has to be the quarterback. I mean, and then. So right. I was thinking of what Tony said as he spoke here, because you probably see me write down things a lot. People talk about being a play caller. We're talking offensive plays. If you played a 10-game season, maximum you're calling 500 to 600 plays the entire year. So you're calling. So you want to be a play caller, but you're only going to do that 500 to 600 times the entire year. That's the maximum, I think, in 10 games. So it's not about, you better be what percentage of those plays are you going to run properly? Let's say it's 50%. All right. That's a little low, but it's still probably not a horrendous average. How many plays are you going to run where everybody carries out their assignment in an excellent fashion?
Good luck.
Yeah. So So you better get used to practicing something and doing it well. So in other words, as Tony said, brilliance is being excellent at 2 to 3 things.
And I think that was something too, like for us, like at Butler, as a small group one, like, all right, you get what you get, but here's what, and the philosophy was always the same. It was, hey, we do this much, but we do this much really, really well. And we're going to practice it, and we're going to hammer it home, and we're going to be so good at it that we don't care what the defense does. We're going to dictate to them what they're going to do, because it don't matter how you line up. We're going to run our plays that we've been running since, since you were in 6th grade, and you're running the same stuff, and they know it's coming, but we're just going to be better at it. And I think that philosophy has kind of traveled with me, just through my entire playing and coaching career, where, look, man, keep it simple, keep it small, but understand the depth of it so much that you're on a different level with it. And I think that's kind of one of the things that I picked up and I've used, since I kind of got into it. And I just keep, especially in today's world where, the attention spans are just, here, and everything is now. And it's like, look, let's just be good at this, and we'll be, we'll stay focused on it. And then now we can allow you guys to really understand the depths of it.
Yeah, and I like that. It's like, so you're going to major in employment, or you're going to major in unemployment. I mean, that's what happens when you get all over the place.
100%. Like, look, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this, we can do that. You're only touching the surface. Like, get into it.
Well,
really dive.
It comes down to players, but I have a question for Coach Demeo. How do you decide who you want to option?
Well,
here we go. Yeah.
We have set guys, but here's one of the things that I have to bring up real quick, DJ, is that the cutback that became such a big part of the gun triple. I never coached it. The first by the way, nobody wants to play fullback except guards. So back in high school. As a matter of fact, he led the state of Texas in yards per carry. And old Mazzoni sent him to me because he couldn't get him in at Auburn. Anyway, he cut back on his own. And I said, his name was Brandon Rayner. And I said, Brandon, what made you cut back? I never saw that before, running the triple option. He said, I saw the linebackers go that way, so I just went the other way.
Yeah, Tony, weren't you a tailback? I
taught it that way ever since. I said, just read the backside linebacker, and he'll take you.
Tony, weren't you a tailback?
But anyway, pardon me?
Weren't you a tailback?
I was a tailback in college, yeah.
David, weren't you a
my
tailback?
coach said I was so slow.
He was a tailback.
I was so slow. I didn't run to daylight. Daylight found me.
Yeah. Well,
he said one time I got caught on a long run, and I came off after we wound up scoring on the.
I don't know.
He's gonna kill.
Honestly, I have no idea what's going on with his technology.
I feel bad.
We might have to send your guy that goes and does the stadiums or whatever.
Yeah, Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got to
rewire. Send him in to. You know what I actually think it is. I just because his stuff breaks up. I feel like whatever his cell network is.
Yeah, his like Wi-Fi and stuff.
Yeah, it's a little.
Where does he live?
I don't know exactly.
Is he still in West Virginia?
Might be.
That might be your answer.
I'll tell you this.
You know,
Coach, you asked the question, right? What did you ask the coaching question, right? Like who you do whatever.
Yeah.
So I'll jump in on that. So I look at it, right, and I mean, my first guy is Mike Leach. Like that's just he was whatever. That's my guy right there. But I think my second guy, is a little different. Like I would love to sit down with Buddy Ryan.
Okay.
Oh.
And then
I'm back again. This is
Tony.
incredible.
We're sending DJ's guy to you to get you a better network.
Tony, don't put your camera on. I think that's the issue. Just don't put the camera on. I think you have no problem with the voice.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Let me see. How do I shut it off, though?
You're good right now.
Okay, the voice is off.
Yeah,
No,
just go, man.
I
You're
was
cranking
saying,
out.
I got caught from. Okay, I got caught from behind, and we scored on the play. But when I ran off to the sidelines at the end of the drive, he came over to me and he said, "TD, if you were a little bit faster, I'd consider you slow." But anyway, the tailback thing.
Yeah, good.
Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
no, I
What's
want to
the
hear the
question?
tailback thing first. Yeah.
Oh, so anyway, that what I tried to do is get a handful of plays that would. I didn't want to be a great play caller. I wanted the play to change based on the defense. So, for example, every pass that we had in our offense had a built-in run. So, in other words, if on our drop back pass, if the quarterback saw the backs of the linebackers, he took off and ran, quarterback draw, automatic. If the boot, the quick game, we always had a boot off it. Every run had a built-in pass. So the first read of every option was the backside screen. So 8 between the slots, throw quicks and hots. So I didn't have to be a great play caller. The plays would adjust. If they loaded the box, the quarterback would just throw the quick game. Just throw the quick screen out to the wideout. And that really, really helped us. I mean, that's what I call strategic flexibility. So we had about 8 or 9 plays like that, and that's all we ever ran. And it just evolved. It made it very, very easy, and all the players had to do was master that. Another interesting thing, somebody talked about Mike Leach, who I loved. Mike Leach, I knew Mike Leach 3 hours listening to me talk in Orlando on the gun triple because they were really interested in it. They were at Kentucky at the time. And
right.
At the end of the day, we met and we chatted a little bit. And they said, we can't do it because we spend 20 minutes a day just on running our mesh pattern. So you can't run another 20 minutes every day on the gun triple. It was just too much. It didn't fit. So anyway, they were the mindset the same way. They had a handful of things they did, and that's what they focused on, and they were great at it.
Right. I mean, look, Mike Leach used to have the index card for play calls. That's all he used.
That's what I use.
He was a great coach, and he was a fun guy to be
coach.
around. DJ, he was a history major also, by the way.
Oh, God. His book
brilliant.
on Geronimo was phenomenal.
And, yeah, he was, and he loved pirates.
Oh yeah. There's
Obsessed.
I read that book, Swing Your Sword. He definitely loved pirates. And I've been to Key West, and I've swam with the dolphins. Thank goodness I didn't get eaten by a shark. But I've been to Key West and swam with the dolphins. Although they took me out quite a bit far on Key West, where I was like, I can't really see land here.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with this move.
I was like, I would like.
They don't know you're an Olympic swimmer too, Dave, do they?
Oh no, that I definitely get.
Who's the best swimmer in the Schuman family of your siblings?
My father. Oh, I was gonna say my father was the best swimmer. Although, no doubt the best swimmer.
Okay.
No doubt the best swimmer of the siblings. Well, the person who will last the longest in a bad situation is definitely my brother, because he's the distance runner, and he swims pretty well, and he always could tread water pretty well. I remember in summer camp, we'd be in there treading water. We'd be treading water, and I'd be they're like, okay, all right, no longer use your arms, you just got to use your feet. And I went right to the bottom of the pool. My brother's up there still, with his feet, like I'm like, good golly, I said I'm a dead man if anything happens.
Yeah, but if the three of you are in the water, Jackie's living.
If the three of us are probably because me and Danny are arguing. So me and him are arguing about what to do.
Yeah, take it on water.
Yeah, he thinks I'm crazy, and he thinks he's smarter than me, which he is. He is smarter than me. But
only by
he thinks I take chances.
maybe only by degree.
Well, oh no, the smartest by degree is Jackie because she's a doctor.
Right, she's got the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, I have to call her Dr. Jack now, which is my sister's the Tony. My sister's the athletic director at UMass Boston, and I try to every time the job comes open, I say, hey, why don't you hire me as one of the assistant coaches? Like they had an assistant volleyball coach come open. I said, I'll coach volleyball. I said, I can coach anything. She has assistant this come open. I remember it was like a rowing or something. I was like, I can coach rowers. It's just like coaching track, And she's like, no, I can't have you. You're my brother. You'll ruin my whole situation if you come in there. I said, are you trying to tell me that?
Yeah, I don't know, Dave. I don't really know. I think she might have a point.
Well, she's smart. She's smart. She knows I'm a wild card because at some point I'm going to do something. So, and she's going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, and been there.
I said, why don't you hire me as the assistant volleyball coach? That's an easy job. I sit in the side. I get the rotation in. I get, I work with the setters.
I'd love to hear your recruiting pitch to go recruit volleyball. I'd love to hear that one.
All right, so Tony, here's I asked a question. So, when you're working with your linemen, how do you decide who to read? I mean, in other words, you go into a game and we know if you can't block them, you read them. If you can't read them, you block them. I mean, what's your thinking? He's frozen.
He's gonna flip.
Yeah, we met that. He's gonna demand a redo.
It's all right. I'll talk to him every day.
I see Tony.
Told you.
I don't hear Tony.
Should have kept the camera off.
Tony, we're gonna have to get you in a better. What location are you in, Tony? Before you answer that question, or maybe not.
You remember, I'm too old for you guys, but Tony remembers. This looks like when they were going to the moon. They're kind of like just floating around,
Well, when we can hear him, we'll get to that question. I want to tell you something. This is interesting. So Don Morgenroth, yeah. I actually know he worked at the same day camp that I did.
Oh gosh.
Can you believe? And you know what he was in charge of? When he was young, he was in charge of the ropes, the people that go up climb those. Yeah. They probably have it in gym class now. Those things, but he did the rope stuff, and you had to be like an certified instructor.
Yeah, you had to go out there and do
Project Adventure.
Yes, he was like the Project Adventure guy.
Yeah, there you go.
And I was responsible for the fourth graders. And when they went to the pool, I took a nap because the lifeguards had them. So
you're like, your turn.
Don had this very important responsibility. And every time I would come by there with my kids to Project Adventure, he'd be like, what are you doing all day? I'm like, well, I play basketball.
You're like, I worked out.
I sit on the bench. I talk to the girls. We're like 20 years. I talk to the girls. And when we're at the pool, I either talk to the girls or I'm sleeping. He's like, what? He's like, I'm working my butt off all day long. And I said, I have the real camp experience,
Yeah, you're like, you signed up for the wrong job, bud.
But it's funny because Don Morgenroth, Derek, you don't know this, but he's the guy that does our lines when we do our camps. He's the guy who does our line guy. Yes, he does. He does like that guy. Don Morgenroth can build anything. Like if you need him to do a field, he can go and get a field done for you. Like he's unbelievable. He builds baseball. You know those things that people have in the backyard for baseball. Yeah. He builds those for people, custom made. It's unbelievable. But it's funny because I'm pretty sure if we could have got Tony, we would have been able to ask him this. But I saw Don. We played Don when my first year at Powell Park, and Don was at Pagoda. He was there for 2 years, and he ran the gun triple, and we were terrible. So I don't know if I could have put it to the fact that he was that good or we were that terrible. But I could tell you this: he dropped 62 points on us in that game, It was
Holy
quite
shit.
embarrassing.
Holy shit, that's a lot. That's a lot, dude.
62
That's a lot.
I just remember that's what I call the infamous water falling down on me. I was sitting at halftime. They already had like 30 points or something, 35, 40 points. And I'm sitting at halftime, and little Pagoda has that little thing out, that little tiny locker room on that field. I don't know if it's still the same way, but they used to have it. And I sat out there in a chair, and John Robleski came over to me, and he said the water was just pouring on my face, and I wasn't even reacting. And he said to me,
Bad day.
yes, that he walked over to me and he said, just stick with it. You'll be fine. He's like, don't do anything rash.
Knew what was coming.
The only thing rash I was thinking about was, could I get to my car and be out of here?
Faster than they can
Instead of
figure it
taking the
out.
bus, will somebody drive me out of here so I could
We've all
get
been
out of there?
there.
And the coup de grace of all of it was, two of my assistants came over to me and said, and DJ, you could appreciate this from Glenrock, said, would you mind if I get a hot dog at halftime? And I said, do whatever the hell you want.
He really asked you that?
Yes. They said, can I get a hot dog? They walked by the hot dog, whatever the hot dog stand was.
Now
They
look,
said,
the only
I could
place
get a
that
hot
we were
dog,
okay
but
to do that.
our kids aren't even listening to anything I'm saying, obviously, and we're not good.
Remember, I told you when we played Montclair High School, dude, they had the best jerk chicken in the world. So Matt Sakis, when we'd be getting our asses kicked, getting blown out, he'd be like, yeah, go get me a jerk chicken before we leave, because I'm not missing out on that part of it. I was like, all right, Jimmy, we're good.
Well, DJ was legendary for when if they were blowing a team out. We used to love to go watch him when they were playing, whoever it was. Garfield would always be the most famous one, but
damn, I want to play Garfield now just to play on the new surface.
Well,
it looks
it is
gorgeous.
beautiful. DJ would be when they're blowing somebody out. I'd see him go over to the press box and be like, "You guys want a hot dog?"
No, that was not me.
I know who it was.
That was a guy in our staff. He yelled up to the press box.
Rosen, right? No, Rosen.
He yelled this out, and I'm thinking the Lodi guys are like on the other side of the press box. He's yelling that he doesn't think they're very good, and he wants to go get hot dogs. Oh, I want one. And I was like, I'm making like I don't even know this guy.
Oh, yeah, sorry. He said, DJ, you want one. DJ, you want one, right?
Yeah, well, he said it in a lot of other ways that were pretty profane. And then he came back and we had scored. He says, I told you, these guys are terrible. You should have gotten a hot dog. And I thought the guys were going to come over from Lodi and throw me out of the press box. So, I mean, yeah, that was a different place.
When I was at Mount Olive, we used to have stat girls that would be in the booth with us charting and whatnot. And I would just give them a 20 at halftime and say, hey, drinks, food, you're good. Finish the 20, bring us back whatever you got. And they had free reign. And, by the end of the season, they were pretty conditioned that, we had then if we had peanut M&Ms, those were coming up. So it was a good move on that part. That was one of the coaching things I learned too is, use if you can, we used to use the first team all conference soccer player girls that were high level competitors who would be out there being the water girl, and they're out there giving water hey dude, what are you doing, make that tackle, you got to make that play. It just raised the sideline. These guys were more scared about being called out by the freaking best lacrosse player in the school than we were with the coaches. It was pretty interesting.
I'm curious, DJs, because you brought it up to Tony. How do you decide who you want to read?
Well, I think for us, we're probably pretty foundational, and this is where I think it's changed. I think when people went to the gun, or even when they were in a double slot in the run and shoot, the problem with the pitch on the option was, especially underneath, it was so apparent. Here comes the motion.
Yep.
All right. So I know you already think I'm nuts, David, but when I first teach the option, I'll do it out of the wishbone underneath. And let's say we're going to the right. I'll take the two halfbacks and I'll put them in a 3-point stance with their helmet perpendicular to the fullback. So that because we want it to be fast.
So they get there quicker.
Right, you're hitting.
We want them running. You know, no dead footwork, nothing. This is just a teaching.
Right, no false steps, none of that.
So when we were a true flex bone team, then it was almost like playing red light, green light. Then I'd move them up. Can you get there from that? I'd turn their body, whatever we would do. But when you're underneath the center and you're in the wishbone or the split back or you're in the full house T, you're not giving anything away about
right. You're not tipping your hand.
The motion led to a lot of, once everybody started going to cover two, a lot of jacking the safeties, and they kind of could have the chalk class. I was like, I don't like to use motion where it's helping the other team. However, the answer became for everybody, go in a shotgun, run your inside zone stuff, and then you distribute the ball horizontally or quickly downfield. And that allowed you to have a pitch concept in the triple. I truly do believe that most people don't do anything more than a double option.
I don't think so, Coach.
I think to really dedicate yourself to the triple is.
I was going to say, I think it takes too much time.
But I think it's a worthwhile investment.
100%.
I think it's a worthwhile investment. So for us, it's always been, what do our guys do well?
That's it.
And you usually have a pretty, where you struggle in the options when people are giving you the 2 and the 4 eye.
Correct.
In the high school level, because they're not letting you party on the second level.
Yep, you can't get there.
Which is fine, because then it becomes more of a zone concept, and that's why people run so much zone dive, right? Or quarterback follow. All right.
You know what I started going to at the last couple of years of the last half of the year at my first year at Red Bank. And then the whole second year with Owen Laughlin, I went to with the power read. I went to grass or no grass.
Yes.
So if the QB was, because those 2 years we had a tailback my first year that was unbelievable. Tore his knee in 7-on-7 in the first 7-on-7 tournament.
First organized thing we really did.
We had to find a ball carrier. It turned out it was the quarterback, right? And no one had used him in that way before. He had just been kind of the guy to hand the ball off, but he was actually a good athlete. And the first half, I was trying to teach, guy closes, you give, and it was okay, but I had to do it in a short time period. So
COVID.
So I started to go to, if you see grass, go. Yeah. If you don't see grass, give it, right? And sometimes it would I was trying to get the best ball carrier to make the best decision for him. And then the other guys kind of had to live with his decision. You know what I mean? And sometimes most of the time he made the right decision, because basically he said, if I could get through there, I'm getting through there. And it was really up to him. If he made the wrong decision and it was closed, it was really usually because he was almost a little bit greedy, right? It was like, okay, I can squeeze through there.
But you had the ball at the end of the play.
Right. Well, he had runs over those two guys, 2 different quarterbacks, 2 years. They both ran for acres, both of them.
Oh, God. And the first kid was like a quarterback kid. He actually ended up going to Monmouth on a scholarship to play. What did he go there to play? I think he went there to play outside backer, maybe safety.
But he left right away. But he ran for 900.
And then he was all over.
The kid the next year with that concept ran in 6 games, ran for 770. But
if we actually had time to put it all in, it would have been unbelievable.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, if we had time,
it was COVID year.
He could have been a 2K QB runner.
I think the answer to your question is the two. I said it before. If you can't block them, read them. If you can't read them, block them. But the other part of it is this: goes to the world of cloudy and clear.
Cloudy and clear.
Cloudy and clear. And the last part is, I think your players make that decision. You remember Jimmy Davidson?
Yes, of course.
And he was running the split back veer, and he came at Dumont. When he retired as head coach, we were
Dumont
because when he retired from coaching as a head coach, Joe Klaus's relationship with him, we got him over to Riverdale.
Yep, I remember.
I think there was a whole bunch of things. You came back, Jimmy came over, and we went, and we just took off. I mean, a couple of years later, after you went to become a head coach at Powell Park, we were able to get Dan Broadhead to come come over.
Yep.
He's a wonderful option guy. So what we kind of decided on that was something Jimmy taught me, which was at on the freshman level at Dumont, when they were running split back veer, it was give and less.
What was it? Give and
less.
Okay.
And what he would, and I've heard guys say keep unless, but what Jimmy wanted to do is he wanted the speed of the entire play taking place. But deep down is until they could handle it, it was give or less. And then he would go to the next part of the option. And that was kind of his thinking on it. And they were able to teach it really well that way. And, I kind of took all those things in, and we didn't really become a good gun option team until a kid named Garrett Avidable came on the scene. And then it was kind of like start off with quarterback design runs, but Garrett could really run it, and he was good at dragging the midline out of the gun. And then I had some other really good kids here. So let's be honest, we had some really good kids. But,
and obviously that helps a ton. Like we're talking.
Oh, it does, but there's something not athletic ability. They got to want to be the quarterback. They have some physicality to them.
Yep.
And they have to be kind of intelligent, to be honest.
Absolutely.
They have to be intelligent. They got to be intelligent. They're all different, but that's kind of how we taught it. We just, we've had this conversation many times on with our staff about, how do we read it? And it's really repping it properly will allow you to.
I think that's the biggest part.
Just repping it properly, and it's got to fit. Like it's just got to fit. So I even have my notes here from today, like what fits. Like what fits. There's so many good notes I have from listening to Coach while he was on here. I think maybe if we're lucky, we can try to redo this and do him with us. And
I know. I
think it's so important to him.
Coach, I had a question for you. When you were running, I told Dave this the other day. When I was in the run and shoot in high school, right? Like if anybody ever picked up on it, like you could just look at our feet, right, as a quarterback, and that told you.
You had the drop foot.
Now, do you still? I don't know how much you go under center anymore.
I've always been squared up. The only kid I ever let go. Two things. I let a kid go to drop foot because you saw an athletic kid named Chris Leonard. All right. And I let Chris do it. And Scott Steven, who was only about 5'5", and he was he was a really sturdy kid. He ended up being a tailback at Franklin and Marshall. Scott,
good school.
He's a high school coach now down in.
I love that place. I love that. Franklin and Marshall has always been one of those like, hey, if you want to kind of stay this level but get out of here, like, go there, man.
If you can get in.
Yes.
but
that too.
But what I did with Scott was Scott's the first kid in the 3-step underneath. We was really Scott's suggestion. We worked on a punch step.
Okay.
So we can get him extra, get an extra. I might do that with the kid I have now, except the kid I have now, his feet, he has the best feet of a quarterback I've had. He reminds me so much of my high school quarterback, Jim Margraf, because Zion Yoon's feet are actually a little bit towards 10-2. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
He's a running back. His feet are always in the ground.
Got it.
So when I coach him, people say, "What do you say to him?" I say, "I leave him alone."
Yeah.
To be able to get those feet constantly in the ground and make that transition. So, for example, if he's doing a drill where we're working from underneath getting 5 steps, so we just put him at the foul line in the gym. Or anything. I don't care what he's carrying when he does it. I have him work to the baseline as fast as he can. Just get back. And then he just works his climb, and he's just always in balance. His steer foot's always good. It's actually pretty impressive. So I don't touch that too much. But I don't like to stagger their feet. I do think it gives something away.
Absolutely.
What I've gotten for over the years being up at Army and watching practice, and Dave, you talked about going to a school, Navy, because Mike Judge from Chatham was the son was at Navy. Mike got me some really good access. Now he's out with Coach Ken again out at and I think, by the way, Judge Senior, I think, is coaching at Mendham. All right. But
did Mendham get lights yet?
Yeah. We played there last year.
That's awesome. I know that was always a big thing when I was at Mount Olive. They were fighting for lights, which is probably why Wrestler left and went to Hackensack. But
no, but he wanted to come home. That's where he went to high school.
Of course.
But I think, when you continually look at the what you have with the kids that you have and what you can do, you can overload them unless you can teach the unless or same as, which is, okay, if you're doing an RPO type concept, it's the same as distributing the ball down the field. So, for example, when they were in the gym this morning, I had all the young kids in and would like to be quarterbacks. And I give them 3 basketballs. So Dave Schuman gets 3 basketballs. And Derek, DJ, and Tony are about 10 feet away in little different directions. They have to pick the ball up and distribute as fast as they can, because you're always talking about getting the ball out.
Yep.
So pick them, then the next kid goes. Or what we'll do when we do have a football, we can do it with a basketball, is we put them in a baseball diamond. And either me or one of the kids essentially hits infield. And they just throw either short hops or get the ball around the horn, where they're constantly pivoting their feet and getting the ball out to different destinations, and that's something they like too, because they're getting the ball down in the scoop position. Now it's David's son in a different platform and getting the ball out. And or coming.
That's why I think shortstop a lot of times make good quarterbacks, because
absolutely,
the way they have to move their feet to throw the ball in multiple different directions and have to get it out very quickly because they're farther back usually.
Well, think about this. If you're a quarterback and you're right-handed and you're throwing the ball to your left on a bubble or an access, you're just coming across the base.
Yep.
That's correct.
Turning 2.
Coming across the base. It's hard. It's more difficult going to your right. In fact, if you were to throw the bubble, you'd rather throw the bubble to your left if you're a right-hander.
Absolutely.
In the gun. If you want to throw it to your right, you want to be underneath.
Yeah, I mean,
correct.
Listen, it's the same thing we
100%.
talk about, right, Dave? When I talk about, like, hey, if you're getting on a roll, most times guys are lazy. If they're a right-handed guy rolling to the right, they're lazy. They keep it open, and now it flies. Whereas, if they're rolling left, they're more conscious of, hey, I got to get downhill, get my shoulders around, and let it fly that way, attacking the line. And you wouldn't think that. You would think it would be the opposite.
Yeah, the issue always becomes, because you're going to be using your entire body. The thing is, as a sprint out, you're usually not in that position you think you're going to be in drill. It just doesn't really work that way. No. All right. So, but you have to,
Well, in the bubble screen, in the gun going to your left, the left foot is a natural drop to easily throw it out there.
I just.
And then it's the opposite on their center. When you're in the center, the right foot drops first. Yeah. And that's an easier throw for you, but in gun, it's not. I'm always amazed when guys throw the bubble to the right, or even
it's hard,
or even if they're throwing to the back, what I mean, on the swing.
Yeah, it's tough.
They'll misthrow it.
Well, most of your passes, whether it's in quick game or those, we call those destination throws. So I'll give you some things here, because I'm not giving anything away. Maybe I am. When you throw speed out to the slot, you tell your quarterback you're throwing to the same destination you would split end hitch. It's the same ball. It's a destination throw. So, for example, if you're throwing a bubble to the left and you're right-handed, you don't talk about the right foot. The right foot kicks behind. So if you stand up and do it, and you just kick your right foot behind going to the left, go ahead, stand up and do it. You'll say, wow, that makes all the sense in the world. So just kick your right foot behind you. Just kick it behind you. So if I'm right-footed, I'm a right-hander, I'll do it, right? So when I get the ball, all right, I catch it, and I take the ball and I just kick behind. That's all power. Now I'm a lefty, all right? So if I'm going to my left, I just kick behind there. Now listen, here's what we tell them. If you're throwing a bubble, just throw it at the split end's butt.
Yeah.
If you're throwing a rocket screen, throw it to the slot's butt. Destination throws, all right? Just like, and I'm not trying to get on a tangent here because, Tony's not back in, but, in high school football.
We lost Tony.
Yeah.
He gave up.
You're going to get back. And again, maybe you want to replay it, but maybe I give you guys some things here that you can put that piece on. When you throw the ball, I want you to go through all these things in your head, Derek. You're a receiver, right? Out and up from a slot. You with me?
Yeah.
Okay. Corner route from the slot. You with me?
Yep.
Fade route from the split end. It's all the same ball.
100%.
So what you'll find is once you throw the ball over, it's a destination pass. Once you throw the ball, so you get in the get in the the tight go zone, the tight red zone, right? Once you throw the ball over 18 yards outside the hash in high school football, your percentage goes down to about 12%.
So outside the hash,
Because the safety has a chance to get over the top.
Well, you're throwing it to him, yeah. So that's the thing. That's what you always want. We're all good at playing quarterback against our defense because we want those guys to intercept the ball in rhythm, right? So I don't like our quarterbacks throwing interceptions ever. It happens. I'm not going to rip them on it, but I don't want them getting a habit like you're going to be the scout quarterback throwing interceptions.
Nope. Absolutely.
But I will take our young quarterback and say you're going to throw interceptions today, but they better be on time.
correct. Or
So
it better be because that guy,
I want you to throw accurate
didn't get
interceptions.
his head around soon enough and bam.
I want you to throw accurate. So now it's essentially like you're treated just like you're the coach in practice. That you have a player, a cone out there. I hate using cones, but you have a cone out there, and the kid's breaking on the cone. You're throwing as accurate to that cone as you can. So you want that kid to break it on, get on stride. So that's what your completion percentage will be. How many in stride, in rhythm passes you can throw to the defense.
Right.
Okay. So we want you to be beautiful on that. But yeah, so you're running out and up from the slot and you drop that sucker in. It's all the same throw. It should become Pavlovian, just dropping that sucker in.
Right. And I think that corner ball, right? Like that smash concept is one of my favorites, right? And we made a killing of it in high school because why? Because I had a quarterback that knew, look, you're going to trigger or you're going to start your trigger at 8. By 10, you're going to be on the angle. And look, depending on where that guy is, I'm either hitting you back pylon or front pylon. And if that front pylon looks a little, if there's a guy over the top, I'm throwing you open shallow, right? Which is why
I think that's where the game has changed. From when I was a kid, nobody threw you open, right? But you threw guys open on the basketball court all the time.
All the time. What's an alley-oop?
Yeah, but you can't defend above the rim. I mean, but that's another.
But I mean, my thing too, right? Like I could sit here and even my entry passes, right? Like if I put my entry pass in a certain spot, bro, where you can come off that block or whatever, now we're good to go.
Well, watch the
I
kid
just
from
love
Purdue.
that corner ball, man. That corner ball is so.
Watch that kid from Purdue, the big fella, right?
Oh yeah, we were just talking about him yesterday. Was it Eddie?
Eddie.
I mean, watch. I mean, he's been coached up, but where the ball's entered is everything. And every ball that they would enter in, that where they lead them, they let them into trouble. If they bounce past it, now it's down with all the rats.
Yep.
I mean, so you want to keep that ball up. You want to be throwing at his face because he's so nimble. You don't think he's nimble, but he is. There's a lot of things going on there that are tremendous because he's still in his infancy.
Oh
right?
my goodness! Yeah. Just wait till he gets to the league and gets with like a real now he's going to be bodied up and whatever. I mean,
he'll be fine. He'll be fine.
What do you think about?
We just talked about that, Dave. Were we just having this conversation yesterday? Like, hey, his transition to the league, like he's going to have to get more athletic.
Yeah.
Well, just before David asked this question, when he was at Saddlebrook, and we were not very good at Riverdale yet, he had just left, and we used to go up to Old Japan and do 7-on-7, which is gone now. All right, where Bob Valley would bring his Crest kids over with Old Japan, and we got work like every Tuesday night in a sane way. All right, we were really teaching. And Dave's coaching his kids at Saddlebrook. He just got him. He's saying, look, he knows the kids from Riverdale. Says, that kid can't get off the hash. He keeps throwing a corner around. He can't get around. So what the solution has become is safeties are flying off the corner, right?
Flying.
Now, guys are getting really good at corner post.
Absolutely.
I mean, and you guys, again, talking to Derek about it's corner post, bang. It's not corner post.
No, it's not a 3 ball. It's not a 3 ball, right? Like either give me a 1 if it's clear and that linebacker is nowhere to be found, then I have that win. Bro, give it to me right now because I don't know where that backside safety's coming from, or I don't know how aggressive that corner is, or even that backside linebacker. Maybe he's got a nice drop.
Football's easy when you're on offense. You want the defense in the pass game to run the hypotenuse of a right triangle.
Absolutely.
Right.
Or when you're on defense, you want the ball to travel to hypotenuse. Now, because
Yes, sir.
when you watch a pro football game, it's the first, and now the college guys are pretty good too. It's the first time in football. We don't teach this in high school because the ball moves faster than the player in high school football. In the pros, it doesn't.
No, it does
Right.
not.
Faster than the ball.
And I think that's the biggest transition. And we've seen it a lot, right? When we bring up our younger QBs to the 7-on-7 world, it's like, look, like you need to throw that thing now, dude. Like, and I think the timing of things and the windows start to shrink. And it's like, hey, look, that's open. And oh, coach, that wasn't open. Well, it was open, but you have to throw it now.
But
I think that's the biggest thing for the younger guys is their ability to know when, like, the guy's always open, buddy. It's like you just got to throw it this point.
But here's the thing: you want to tell your kid you're working with your quarterback thinking this. That's where the ball has to be. If the kid doesn't catch it, we can't be result oriented. We got to get a better guy.
Right.
So that's where terminal routes come in because you need to see some success, right?
Absolutely.
The next thing is your quarterbacks look at three things every time they pass a football. I try to tell them don't throw the football. That's what I see in baseball now. He throws 101, but he can't pitch. All right. So I heard some moron say something. I heard some moron say something. Greg Maddux couldn't pitch today because he pitched to contact.
Right. That's what they say.
He'd find a hole in that guy's swing, and that guy would never hit the ball.
Dude, Stanton would have 50 more strikeouts.
Yeah. So here's something for your quarterbacks, right? If the only time the quarterback leads a guy is when the quarterback's essentially stationary. I don't call it a drop. He gets back and there's a guy running. He leads him. Everything else he throws at him. So if the quarterback's moving and the receiver's moving, you throw at him. You learn that in basketball all the time. You find out who stinks in basketball right away.
Real quick.
Fast break. They try to lead him when they're at the foul line and the other guy's at midcourt. You got to throw the ball at him. Again, destination, right? So he's moving, you're moving, throw it at him. You're stationary, he's moving, lead him. You're stationary, he's stationary, throw at him. The only time he ever leads them is when the quarterback's stationary.
And that was my question was about body types, right?
Yeah.
So different body types as receivers.
Yeah.
Different things.
Allow you to want to do different things with the ball. Not necessarily with the ball, but how you get him the ball. Yeah. And so it's funny because all the years of coaching until I coached 8-year-olds, I never realized how important the body type of the individual and what their like how fast they are, and where you give them the ball so they can do things, right? So
it's just so important. Like
we have this weird dynamic, which you have at a high school level too. We have one of the kids on our team. His father's 6'8". So you can imagine how big the kid is for an 8-year-old, right?
Right.
So another kid is a bullet kid. So like he runs like our shallows or intermediate shallows, right? And he gets – and what we're teaching them is when the big guy is on anybody, get him the ball towards his head at all times.
Throw it faces, yeah.
Everything is – because his body type – whether even if you overthrow him, it's no one else is catching it. Okay, so throw the ball to his head, and the kid grabs the ball really. We happen to have two of those kind of kids, right? But then we have we have a couple of those really speedy little kids, and we say, okay, with those guys, make sure you get them the ball when they come across in space, so they can run the farthest. Everyone has to chase them. So. Obviously on the shallow and any kind of leech concept, they're working 1 to 3 yards all the way across. Ideally, throw it to him on the opposite hash because once he catches it, or near the opposite hash, because once he catches that, you're gonna have to chase him, right? And then anything with the swing, like on a swing or a bubble, get them the ball immediately now because the faster you get it to them,
the faster they can do what they do.
The faster they're running, right? So body, and I notice it in college a lot because then you have the wiry guys that can do everything. You can do whatever you want with those guys. They're not really a factor, right? But I'm talking, you see this such range in body types because the NFL, it really became a big deal with Wes Welker and those guys. But everyone is using a different body type to accomplish different things in their passing game. The big tight end physical kid for this, the fast guy for that, the do everything kind of guy, the wiry 6'1", 6'2" receiver that's 185 that can do most things, right? But Tyreek Hill, how you're throwing Tyreek Hill the ball, like if you threw Tyreek Hill the ball like you used to throw Megatron the ball, it just go over his head over all day long. He's not going to be able to make a play on it. But Tyreek Hill, you're trying to get him the ball either as fast as you can so he can run, or way down the field so he can outrun people. Right. And it's interesting how how do you coach, and maybe you don't deal with it as much at Riverdale, but how do you coach?
What are you trying to say, Dave? How slow?
Yeah, what's that mean?
Go ahead.
Well, no, you know what I think you have a lot of the quicker kids. You know what I mean? Like you have a lot of the kids that you're going to get that are quick in space. They can run. Right. Even if they're not like going to outrun you in 100 meters, they're going to take off. You know, on that route, any space they get, they're going to get a lot of yak yards, right? Mm-hmm. But the different, how do you think people should handle the different body? Because that's a hard thing to coach for quarterbacks to learn. But everybody, you know, as you go up the levels, you have to learn how to do that. And it's not that they're different throws, but they're differently timed throws.
Yes. Yeah, the guys, Lou Holtz used to say, you know, the guys he worried about were the fast guys who get to the wrong spot too quickly, right? So, I mean, it makes some sense.
It does make a lot of sense.
I will say this. I don't think you can really figure out a receiver quarterback unless you leave them alone and you just put them on the field and you go sit in the stands and grab yourself something to eat, let them run up and down. One thing I will say is there's guys that are tweeners with that. What I mean by the tweeners, forget the guys who are physically imposing who can really run, because that's a whole different world. Right. But if you look at the fellow that plays for the Eagles, Devontae Smith, is that his name?
Yeah, from Alabama.
You're seeing more and more guys now who are not that tall, with the number one thing that's underrated in sport, with incredible arm length. All right, so they
can catch. Right? They're there.
Well, yeah, so they're bigger than you think. So like I have ridiculous wingspan, and I'm 5'10".
Hell yeah!
I mean, I got really crazy wingspan. All right, I played the top of 1-3-1 zone. I got my hands on everything. You know, I mean, so having those long arms. We presently have a guy who's not overly fast, but has really long arms. He's just lanky and he's got gigantic hands. Kid RJ Weiss. All right, and he's a heck of a player. But you find those guys. But we've been having this sawed-off kid lately that's been really good. The Colin Quinns, the Max Frugens. And then the best kids skill-wise, we've had some good kids at Riverdale. We had Matty Conley
Matty's great,
and Ryan O'Neal. But the best skilled kid I've had, I tell people this, and I coach Grant Adams at Glen Rock, and I coach Mikel Brown, I coach Craig Agnello. I go down the list. The best skilled kid in terms of I've ever had is Joey Mellon, and I had him at Riverdale, and he was when he was a sophomore, he was by 5'5", 115 pounds. And then by the time he was a senior, he was probably 5'9", 155, could bang out 35 pull-ups,
he's probably a stud.
Incredible, fit, tough kid. So I think you kind of got to really let him go to figure that out. So
you got to let him go do their thing a little bit.
I think it's give him a route tree.
Right.
And let them go get, because a lot of things get dismissed in the passing game when you go in the route tree. And
absolutely.
I mean, I use this one with our kids. I said, look, I was born essentially, I got a lazy eye and I'm really blind in an eye, right? But I'm not blind in the eyes. It's I don't use it because it got turned off when I was a kid, right? That's kind of how your electricity works. You pick a route and you'll see where I'm going, right? So let's say we're running a slant. I'm a left to right guy. I'd rather it go from my bad eye to my good eye. If it goes right to left, it goes good eye. So now you know where my hands are going to be, Dave. My hands got to be up here because it can't travel with blindness. If I run a corner route going to my left, it's going to travel from good eye to bad eye. I got to go get it or square up. If it goes the other way, I'm real comfortable because it just goes from here to the eye it's going to travel to. So out route to the left, got to get my hands up. To my right, I could do almost anything. All right. So it's kind of interesting with that. You don't know that with kids on Some kids are better to the left side than the right side. You know, you got kids that can play in motion. Other guys, you can't put them in motion.
Yes.
You know,
100% right.
Some guys are really, yeah. It's like some guys can go across motion, some guys can go in a shorter motion.
And I love motion.
Yeah.
And I'm actually the opposite. I don't love motion that much.
No.
See, as a player,
I don't like motion.
I loved it.
I use it for get game and stuff, but I didn't love it. You know why? Because like, and I remember in the old days, like you used to use motion to see if they're playing some sort of man or not.
Man or some shit.
Yeah. But I don't like motion because I feel like there's ways I use it, but all the time, because I think what happens is it's another thing for kids to remember.
Yeah.
And what happens is when kids have to remember things as they're running across, my experience, and I haven't always had, you know, although Red Bank was much better than other places have been, but like when I was at Powell Park, the less I motioned them, the better they were. I utilized like wild sets, multiple different sets, whether it's, trips or bunch or quad or empty to kind of get them where I wanted to go. But they, anytime I'm using it, they would come to me, and that's how I learned it. Like, they're like, Coach, why'd you run that route? I forgot what my route, as I was running the cross, I forgot my route. You know what I mean?
People study, okay, what did this player concept give us?
Right.
I would love to see you guys study, what did the motion really give you? And at what part of the field did it give you that? Guys are better at bumping and exchanging even on a high school level now.
Yep.
So now you got
absolutely.
Guys, now you got yourself a new problem that you didn't expect before the snap. That could be the argument. I mean, some guys, look, I have this feeling about how there's going to be no rules in the game for the simple reason they can't find officials now. So
terrible. We literally just had one on last week talking.
So the officials you're getting people officiating who are clueless. Well, it's good, but it's great. We're getting, look, if you look at who's officiating now, it's the people who want to officiate.
Correct.
Yes.
So, for example, and this is wonderful, you're getting more and more minorities who are officiating now because they love the game and they're attracted to the game. And as the game is changing demographically, so are the officials, which is wonderful. We're getting more women officiating the game.
Absolutely.
Because they want to officiate the game, because they care about the game. So my point is, but there's a lot. Because, you're not always this judge or you're not always the back judge. You're not always the umpire. The umpire doesn't change much. It's some lunatic who's not afraid of getting run over. All right. But, those people are nuts.
I would never.
What you want from an umpire is a guy that was either a linebacker or an offensive lineman.
Absolutely. They see what's going on inside of it.
He knows that's power right now.
And he's moving away. Yeah.
Watch a really good umpire in a game, in a high school football game.
Yeah, their eyes.
How the hell did he know that? He's like, let's go right to here. Like, he knows what the point of attack is, right? But my point would be this, that I think eventually we'll get to the Canadian rules, where if you're not going offside, you can move all you want if you're a perimeter player.
It makes sense with the era of less contact. There's less contact in that game, so
and there's more offense to it. And I just think,
it's what people want to see. It's more spread. It's more wide open.
But for the official, it's you're offsides, you're not offsides.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, that's got to be a hell to call with the motion.
Well, the motion originally had to go backwards, and then they started letting it go forward. And now you watch a pro game, you're like, I don't know who's in the slot, who's off the line, who's going my way.
I can't even imagine playing defensive back.
Well, you're right. That was the whole controversy with Tony or whatever, right? Like they're forcing that the ball's here, and they're forcing them to step right up to the ball, where some of these guys are now stepping over the ball.
Yeah.
Which what happened to Tony, and they're yelling at him. But I'm sure in practice all day long they're going, get your butt on the ball, right? Well, now they're so used to that guy who's on the ball, so used to literally stepping on the ball that they're lining up. I've watched multiple NFL games where, to me, I'm like, these guys are offsides. Like, they're offsides. So it's funny that Tony, who was a wild card to begin with, he always ends up getting picked on. But he is. That's why he was arguing. He's basically arguing. This is what I've been taught. Like I'm arguing. This is what you're teaching me. Now I'm getting released because of it. Right. Which he's probably half right, because if he's not a super aware guy, he's a bullet speed guy. Maybe he's not a super aware guy. And you keep teaching him to get on the ball, and he hears it over and over again. And now he's thinking, I'm not on the ball. And he lines up off sides, right? And I see that in the NFL over and over again, because those slots, to me, look like the guys who used to be on the line.
Correct.
Am I right? Like they're literally on line with the offensive linemen. Yep. So I could see, and I haven't paid enough attention in college to see if that's an issue or not. But at the NFL, definitely an issue. Like I see those guys so far up on the ball, and I'm like, wait a minute. Like they called offsides. I'm like, oh, was it the slot guy lined up on the line? No, it was Tony actually stepping over and literally physically being in the neutral zone when the other guys look to me like they're on the line. Like that would be on the line for us in high school.
I think what they say is this. I think the officials say this. Oh, come on, they're out there. They're so if nobody goes in motion, there's not an issue.
100%. Nobody says boo. That's the best part about it.
I mean, so I don't watch pros that much, but obviously when I do, it's after the high school season's over.
Right.
It's late in the season.
And the first thing you say is, wow, that's not what we're playing. And you guys know that if you're in a room with people that aren't involved in football or didn't play football, they're yelling at things. You're saying like, those guys are really hitting each other hard.
Yeah.
Like they don't understand that, they don't get it. Like you want to bring a helmet to a gathering and put two helmets, put a helmet on somebody and then take a helmet and just put it, I don't know, this far from their skull and just say, I'm going to hit you 20 times like this. Boom, boom, boom. I'm going to go to the front of your head. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm going to go to the other side. Boom, boom, boom. I'm going to do that for 20 each. And then you're going to be ringing. And I'm going to say, multiply that by a blank amount of times and think about being an offensive lineman in a high school practice. Imagine. I mean, how many times you go? So it's incredibly physical, guys. And people have to understand what these people go through to play it. So, I know this didn't turn out the way you wanted to, but I appreciate it. And,
no, it was great. The information ended up being great. I
That's
feel bad for Tony.
Right.
I still want to know where Tony is exactly.
Well, you could have a clinic. What happened to Tony?
Poor Tony.
Coach, I'd love to get on your Zooms too, if that would be something.
I'll do that. You guys, what's your email, Derek?
First name dot last name at yahoo.com. Makes it nice and easy. So Derek dot.
You want me to put it in the chat? I'll put it in the chat for you. I'll put you.
I got it. And what are you at, Yahoo?
Yep.
I got it.
And if you'd like to do our come in on our on any of the special teams ones we do on Wednesday nights, I mean, I'll send you the link. It's really good. We had the dude from Monmouth spoke, on kick return. We had Mike Sierri. He came in and, Michael talked, Coach Sierri will talk forever. I mean, God, he just never stops. So every week it's like, somebody else coming in talking about, I mean, I think we have a guy next week coming in talking about Muddle Huddle.
Okay. Are you guys?
Oh, that's my thing right there.
Are you guys coaching with a high school right now?
I am. I just took a job at Brick Township High School, so 5 minutes away. I'm excited.
I'm still in semi-retirement, DJ.
Well, that's nothing wrong with that.
I'm on. Could be the fourth year. Although I helped Old Japan, break down film the last 3 years. But
do you enjoy that?
I enjoyed it a ton.
That's a great gig, dude.
I enjoyed it a ton. The only thing, if I do it again next year, I want to, for the first couple of years, I was getting lots of parameters, so it was great because I knew. Then it became tell me exactly what you see, and I really had to watch a lot of film to figure out what the other guys are doing. It's a little harder without parameters, but it's but I mean I'm basically going off of what I like versus what, exactly what they like, which the parameters help me kind of do a little bit more what they like. But I know I know his offense and defense. Like I know what Joe runs and I know what what Dunn runs, and I've seen it so many times that they kind of just give us what, and we'll use it or not use it. But yeah, this year I haven't this year's been interesting down here in the shore. So there's a whole lot of
a lot of moves.
Yeah, a whole lot of transition. It was funny. I was up for the Petty job, but you know who it went to, right? Mark Fabbage.
Mark got the Petty job?
Yep, Mark got the Petty job. And I just saw it. Mark got the Petty job. It's interesting because I think Mark and Augie were both at Columbia at the same time, and then they both I guess got let go. And now that Augie's back at St. Joe's, and Augie obviously coached high school all those years. Mark's been in college for forever because he was Monmouth forever, and then Penn, and then Columbia. So that'll be interesting. But Petty's over down where I'm not sure. It's funny because I enjoy coaching the little guy. I never thought I would, but I enjoy coaching the little guys, and obviously it's because my son's is on the team, so that kind of helps with it. And he loves football, so it's one of these things where me and Derek always talk about it and say probably would be basketball could be his actually best sport, which is. I'm like, you're definitely not related on my side since I was a wrestler when I was younger. It took me years to learn how to put the ball through the hoop. But because how you were talking about your arms are long. He's got these crazy long arms, and they always start him out at like shooting guard or something like that. And he plays now on a AAU team. But eventually, what happens is they got to move him. They move him over to the point because you know what happens. You can't get by those arms. Yeah. Like his arms are to
he'd be perfect on the top of a 1-3-1 defense.
Right,
perfect.
Yeah. Oh yeah, his arms are to the floor.
Or you could put him in the back, and he's like, listen,
yep.
Dave's whatever. I think he's going to be a safety because he's long, he can run, and he's got all that. Yeah. That's what I think. And he's he kind of knows the game as QB. But then again, I put everybody on the defensive side of the ball in college because they could just play more. But that's me. But Troy is he does everything. You know what I mean? He plays all of these other sports, which I think just helps him in the long run, right? I tell Dave all the time, I know he can chuck it, but go put him at receiver. Go let him do all this other kind of stuff. Receiver. And he loves it, The kid runs track, dude.
He just likes
baseball.
Sports.
You should see him at baseball, sports. Dude. He's cranking stuff. He runs.
I think he likes sports more than I do. I think he just likes sports. Just literally likes.
You ask him anything about the New York Jets, he knows everything that's happened on the waiver wire, dude. He's plugged in.
Plugged in. He'll send me on his iPad. He'll send me a message. He'll be like, "Hey," he goes Diggs to Texans. He's 8 years old. Diggs to Texans, Yeah,
he's
these messages. I'm like, how'd you know Diggs to Texans?
He'll be general manager.
Yeah, that's what he would
go, buddy. By that point, your aunt will be somewhere big, so you can slide right in, dude.
That's what he should be. That's what he should be. Is like a GM. He likes the whole. His favorite thing in Madden is he goes, all right. He gives me a piece of paper, and he goes, all right. We each have 25 picks. Okay. And here's the pool of 50 guys. I go first and you go. So he gives me the 50 guys that we have to choose from. He's got 25 he could pick. I got 25, right? And we went through it and we had our teams. And then he realized, the cap. Because, in Madden, you have the cap, right?
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
Yeah,
they do it Coach, it's if you want to, this is what I'm talking about. I don't blame guys for thinking they can come out here and call plays after winning on Madden because it is that intricate. You know what I'm saying? That he's on the waiver wire and he's picking up this guy, but it's a salary cap, and I can't.
The great thing about the cap
have a 99 QB with a 96 running back because it's too much money. So how do I do this?
Wow.
It's crazy.
Well, my son rigs it. So what happens is I go and get because there's a cap, but I don't know exactly what everybody's making. But he puts all these 50, the better guy, all the best guys that he knows, puts them on there, and eventually we're gonna run out of cap, right? But what he does is But by the time I actually play against him, I'm like, how is this guy on your team now and this guy on your team now? He's like, oh, yeah, well, I had 800K to use, so I grabbed him. He's the third guy, and then I put him over on my team. And I'm like, well, do I get to do that? He's like, no. He's like, you got a couple of men. So what does he end up doing? He starts hitting me with, like, he's completing passes to, like, his third and fourth guys who I can't cover because I got a guy that makes, I don't know, the league minimum covering them. So I got a guy cover. He's got the guy that's making like 2.5 million. That's like the third guy. Well, it's a mismatch. So I have my good guys on his good guys. He's mismatching me with his 2.5 million guy and my 600K guy. You know, he's like, I'm killing you. You can't coach. You know? I find it's humorous.
It's going to get worse.
Oh, it's good. Oh, it's good. Yeah, he thinks out. First of all, he says,
hell yeah.
He goes, I can't believe, because I've had to show him they have some of the old Satterbrook films on YouTube. So I had to show him because he doesn't believe that I was a good athlete at all. Like
Right.
You can't do anything. I beat you in everything, you know? So I said, well,
I get it way worse.
He goes, you're not good at anything. But I'll tell you this, DJ, everybody in the family thinks that this is what he really should be. Okay? A half miler. Because he goes and runs. We have this.
Dude, he runs forever.
He runs. He runs. They have in the fall this like cross country. He runs on the cross country team, but he's playing football, so he doesn't make. He goes to practice, but he doesn't make really any meets. But the end of the year, they have this thing called the Run for the Roses, and it was. He basically goes without ever running in a meet, and last year he finished second in the half mile. This year they moved him up. This year, I guess, because he was a third grade, it was a mile, and he finished, I think, 7th or something. And I'm telling you, this kid, like, he hasn't run a race until this. He's foaming at the mouth, kicking it in. You know what I mean? And he just puts it all on the line. I'm like, you know, as good as you're good at all these sports, you're very well rounded. But I said, there's one guy I know who would make you into the half miler that you probably could. That's you. That you could, because that's all my father says it. He's like,
he's a half miler, quarter hurdler, baby.
That's it.
That's what he's going to be.
That's it. Half miler, quarter
I
hurdler.
want to talk to our kids in football who are
Hardest race, by the way, right?
Well, no, the intermediates and the half are really the same cadence.
Same thing.
So you want an intermediate hurdler rather run the intermediates than the open quarter. No.
And intermediate means what?
400 hurdles, you're going over 10 hurdles at 36.
Yeah, no
inches.
thanks. I told you my story, Dave.
Yeah.
I went out there first day of track as a sophomore, right? Coach was like, hey, you know, it's just, come on, dude. We'll go out there. You'll run a little bit, whatever. He said, all right, you're going to run the 400. I had no clue what I was doing.
Yeah.
One lap, I said, what's my nope, walked right off, right to the weight room. Said, Coach, I'll see you when we start throwing a football. I ain't doing this shit.
I'll tell you that. And any guy we have, because I'm not coaching track now, who's running the hurdles for Coach Urso, I say, do you run the intermediates? They say, no. I said, you're a fraud.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to run the intermediates.
I ran the intermediates.
Yeah, you were good. You were good.
Yep.
You ran you did everything. I mean, you ran the highs and, you know, but what I'm looking for, Dave, you spoke about it the last time about guys don't understand speed and they work them hard. That's good. I don't see kids working as hard in workouts, generally speaking. I mean, the best kids are the best kids. The workouts aren't as taxing.
Nope.
There's no kids in a track workout now as compared to who, and you remember this because you were practicing on cinders, that would fear the workout. I'm not trying to scare kids, but when you're running the stuff you did at the level you did, because Derek, he was really good. All right. That's not blowing smoke. And he had some really good kids around him too.
Yeah, we had good kids.
Yeah, they were running at a time when people were really good. You want to ever get Dave talking about who was on his AAU track team?
Oh, I had my 8th grade mile relay. And the funny part, I was the anchor leg. You know why they made me the anchor leg? Because I was the football player. That's what the guy, the anchor was.
The toughest kid.
They said you were the toughest kid.
Every
On
time.
my mile relay was Darius Pemberton was the leadoff leg.
Right.
The best guy was the third leg, which was Jeff Ware. Okay. Jeff Ware was second because he used to blow the race open. Jeff Ware, who his father was the head of Englewood Rec. His sister is an assistant track coach now at Felician, but he never. I don't know exactly. He went to Paramus Catholic. I don't know exactly what happened, why he never. But he ran the half mile in 8th grade in 204.
Right.
So he was our second leg. He was really the best quarter miler of all of us. The third quarter miler was Anthony Hampton.
That's right.
Anthony Hampton, who went on to run, probably, I don't know if he still does, but he held the state record at one point in the intermediate hurdles. I think he was 51 something.
Yep.
And it was funny because in 8th grade, we used to race. Anthony was a 200-meter hurdler, and so was I. And I beat him every time in 8th grade, as well as beat Darius Pembert every time in 8th grade. And they were in 7th. And Anthony, by the way, was only in 6th, but he was a year older.
Right.
But he was the biggest 6th grader I've ever seen in my life. He was. I was in 8th grade, and I was 5'10". Okay, in 8th grade,
Right.
which was gigantic. He was at least 6'1" in 8th grade, 6th grade, at least 6'1".
Yeah.
Ended up being like 6'5", I think. But and he played football at Tennessee. Derek played football at University of Tennessee. So that was our mile relay. We ran.
Not bad.
We ran 340.
Not bad on paper.
I think we ran 344 in the regionals, and we hadn't even we weren't even taxed. You know what I mean? We were going to nationals, but we all went to the nationals, but Anthony Hampton got in trouble in school and his parents wouldn't let him go. So we didn't get to run the mile relay there because we thought there was a chance that we could go 3:30 with that group.
In 8th grade.
In 8th grade.
With a 6th grader.
With a 6th grader. He was, I'll tell you, the stories that I'm out. So Darius Pembert in 7th grade really hadn't quite hit puberty yet.
Right.
Even though he hadn't quite hit puberty, I kid you not, he went 42 feet in the triple jump, and he was like 5'4", 5'5" at the time. He was a little guy, and he went 42 feet. Because I remember he won the long jump. He went like 19 something, and at the regionals, and I went like 17.5 or 8 something like that, or 18, somewhere near 18 feet, and I finished like 4th or something. But he won. He was like a little guy. You know, I was a man. He was a little guy. And Anthony.
Don't shit on the little guys, bro.
Listen, so Darius Pemberton won the NCAA championship indoors in the high hurdles and then indoors in a long jump. He won the NCAA championship. That was the mile relay. And the funniest part of all is, like we'd always say, the best quarter miler of all of us was Jeff Ware, because Jeff Ware had this his stride was it was like watching. There was no guy, and I always say that's why sometimes you want to have a little bit of. You don't always want to have the guy that has the most all the gifts, because his running technique had all the gifts. He was so smooth. It looked like he wasn't running,
like gliding.
He would glide. Now you could beat him in 100, 200 because of that way he ran. He couldn't get out. But
right. He needed to get going a little bit.
You were probably looking at a kid that was going to be a high class 1,500 guy in college.
Yeah, he would have. And I think it's one of those things that I don't know the ins and outs. Like, we were all friends even throughout high school.
But you know how that gets.
Even beyond, I would see these guys, and that's how amazing. That's how we went. We literally went to every meet. When I went to Florida Nationals, I was in the room with Darius, Jeff, and then the regionals with Anthony. These guys were legends, and it was so funny that they had me at the anchor, because I'd be like, "Why am I the anchor?"
You're just a football guy.
Well, they're like, "We know if someone comes up on you, you're not letting them by." And that might not be because you can outrun them. You're just not letting them by.
Yeah.
They did, and I was already 150 pounds, 60 pounds in 8th grade. But that's still to this day. And I tell my wife this, that she's like, "Oh, I said, it's some of my greatest memories. Probably why I like track so much, because running with those guys, and when you had the workouts with them,
oh yeah,
dude,
they were so good."
When you're with good people at a young age, it changes everything in your mind. Because listen, AAU basketball did the same thing for me, because I was a hooper. I loved basketball. I thought basketball was You know, I mean, I started as a freshman. That was like my mindset, like, okay, like hoops. And then, you know, AAU ball, that introduction to being around other guys that were high level, like I love, which made me love practice, right? Like that's where my joy of practice came, because you know, it's like old school 2001 Miami Hurricanes, right? Like practice was harder than the game. And when you're around that, like that just, I love that part of it. And I think that's a big piece, that competition that's created when you're around those high level guys, the enjoyment just goes up.
It does.
But Danny Hurley, I'll tell you, I've
said it
become
good, man.
obsessed with, you know, all the stuff about it. Like, I guess I don't know why they never released it before, but now all these videos are being released on Danny Hurley about how, you know, how he thinks about like how he recruits the parents and I you know, I find Danny Hurley's mindset so fascinating.
Love it.
You know, in that how he looks at like practice. He said the practice is same thing with Gino Ariema's the same way. I mean,
I'd love to. He was on my list, dude. I'd love to be
Gino.
Because I think seeing coaches in other sports and other disciplines.
Well, I never said who my guys were.
Oh yeah. Who are your guys?
That'd be the good close. Well, I had a few guys. I'd like a few guys. I'd like to, if I could bring him back. Sid Gilman, who's you know, he was essentially he was the father of the passing game.
Yes.
All right. And I would put Coryell in that same picture. I would love to listen to Dom Capers.
Oh yeah.
Right. And then the third person on the list would come out of that. Like when the Kentucky job opened for basketball, somebody said, "Who do you think they should get?" I said, Dawn Staley.
Be great.
Right?
Interesting.
But I think I would.
Who's gonna get it? This BYU guy?
I don't know. I don't really follow that much, but I would certainly say the other guys I would like to watch coach would either be Gino, or I would have loved to see Pete Carrill coach.
Pete Carrill from Princeton.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, I would have loved to see Pat Summitt.
Yeah. Yeah.
My sister knew Pat Summitt because she was at Tennessee all those years.
Yeah, those are all real interesting people. But all right, listen.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, and
Coach, always appreciate you, buddy.
Sure. And I'll send you guys that link. Dave, I think you already have it.
Yes, I do. I get your email.
That's
I'm
great.
gonna
I'm excited. That's really
I'm
awesome.
going to send it to Derek. Send it out to other guys. I'm going to send it to Derek and get Tony back on. Like, we'd be great. What happened to Tony DeMeo? I mean, that could be a great heading.
That's the next. That's the big look. That background is right there. It's like, where did he go?
Yeah. Like
what happened to Tony DeMeo is the podcast.
Which Tony's going to be here? You show him the guy going off sides, Tony. You got Tony DeMeo. Yeah, I mean, you can come up with all kinds of things. All right. All right, guys.
Coach, appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a great day.
See you later.
Bye.
Poor Tony had a rough one.
Oh man, I don't know. You got to text him and find out what happened. It could be honestly simply his Wi-Fi, or
that's what I was thinking. And then
download the app.
Because once you download the live stream app, it's great, right? Like, I mean, look, I do it off my phone. I don't really want to do it off my phone, but the audio is better. So, I mean, I'm sure he's going to have some kind of great story for me.
Oh, he must be so frustrated and so bad.
Yeah, because I know he really wanted. Look, I did dive into his book, and it is, Dave, it is so detailed. Like, now I see why when he said, like, I took 2 years. I mean, like I said, it's 412 pages. And you're talking.
Is it a PDF?
Yeah.
That's how they have the interactivity to it.
So it's literally, here's the play, here's the diagram, and we're talking about like this guy's in a 4-eye, this guy's in like the shades are all there, plays are this, and then it's play, and then it's video for each like breakdown of how he did it. I can see why it took a lot of time. I can see why, some people would be against it because it's not your old school, let me read a book like type of thing. But I mean, I think for a guy that's really like, you know what I mean? Like guys that really trying to diagnose it and really run it. I mean, there's so much detail that's put into it. It's incredible. It's a great buy. Anybody that wants to run option football, man, like
Is that on Coach's Choice? Where was?
Yeah,
Or
it's
is it
the
on
link
his site?
itself. Like you can literally just type in Tony Demeo and Google it and whatnot,
And
it'll come up because I believe he has like his own website or whatnot. I really wish we could have got him to plug it, but what I can do is I can get it and I'll post it out. And it's on like coachtube.com, right? And all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
like
okay.
all those sites that like release and go from there. It's on Amazon, right? Intro to the Triple Gun. Look, he's a guru, dude.
Guru.
We're talking like it's wild. And he does. Look,
he was the
there's
first
content
book
that
I read. It was the first book I read on the triple option when I became head coach. The second book I read.
I dove into it because like he's got a whole thing on jet sweep. So I was like, okay, how do I the video is linked to it and all that kind of stuff. It's really good. It really is. It really is a good situation. So I'm gonna have to talk to him and see what he's got.
All right, yeah, let's end
He's like sitting there on the couch and shit. DJ is amazing, dude. Like that guy, every time we sit down and talk to him, like I'm like an absolute sponge. And I just have the utmost respect for him. You know what I mean? Especially knowing that as a player, I had to compete against him. But it's just, he's great, dude. And look, now I got another Zoom link to learn more. Okay.
I'm sure his comments are incredible. So, all right, let's end it. We'll go from there.
That was our 50th podcast.
That was 50. I should have put the 50. I'll put it on the recast and put the 50.
Listen, we do it under the radar, brother. Here we go.
Yep, and the numbers on this one is incredible. Incredible how many people have viewed it. All right, here we go.